wait to see what it's going to be. It's quick from Alonso. It's massively quick, inspired by this huge crowd here in Barcelona.
The celebrations not just for a Spanish world champion on pole position, but for an all-Renault front row at the Spanish Grand Prix.
This is, for me, the best pole. Fantastic feeling here at home.
Michael Schumacher forced back onto row 2, but it could be another Schumacher-Alonso classic at Barcelona's Circuit de Catalunya. The days when this circuit was barely half full for the Spanish Grand Prix are long gone. Fernando Alonso has seen to that. 130,000 packing the grandstands, and they're here in confident expectation of seeing history made once again today. Last year they were here to see if Fernando Alonso could become the first Spanish driver to win the Formula One World Championship. Today they're back to see if he can become the first Spanish driver to win the Spanish Grand Prix, and how he rose to the challenge yesterday. James Allen and Martin Brundle look at Alonso's brilliance in qualifying.
Well, another thrilling qualifying session yesterday here in Catalonia. First time for Fernando Alonso on pole position on home soil, but he had to work for it, particularly from his own teammate Fisichella. What did you make of the session?
Well, it was absolutely great, and the stunning lap times from the two Renaults. So surely the team gave them a few more revs, but did they make good use of it? A brand new set of tyres. They've commandeered the front row of the grid. But for me, what's interesting, James, is that it's now the two Ferraris against the two Renaults. They're both having to bring the second driver into play to, I think, make good use of the team opportunity in this World Championship. It's not just Alonso versus Schumacher.
So we've got the two Renaults on the front row of the grid and the two Ferraris behind them. We think that Ferrari have probably got, again, a couple of laps more fuel in the car than the Renaults have. So tactically, it's going to be very interesting this afternoon. But I get the sense, talking to both teams, they're not 100% sure which one's going to have the better tyre performance over the 3 20-lap stints. What's your read on it?
Well, I've seen Michael Schumacher with a lot of understeer in the high-speed corners, the front just not digging in, and I think that they look like they're graining slightly. So for me, the Michelins have slightly got the upper hand, which they haven't had for the last two Grand Prix. But of course, if you talk to each team, they're both quite confident in their strategies and their tyres. But as I say, I think Renault got slightly the upper hand.
Now, Jenson Button had a bit of a struggle yesterday. He threw 5 sets of tyres at trying to get a decent qualifying lap. Made a small adjustment to the front wing, looking for some more grip at the front, and didn't get it. In fact, he got the reverse. How did that happen?
It's strange, unless there was finger trouble, which I doubt. Putting more front wing on and getting more understeer is highly unusual. Blowing 5 sets of tyres in qualifying leaves him nowhere to go for the race, unfortunately. So Jenson very much on his back foot at the moment.
So let's take a look at the grid for this afternoon's Grand Prix. On the front, Fernando Alonso, first pole on Spanish soil, Fisichella alongside him. The crowd's anti-hero, Michael Schumacher for Ferrari, with teammate Felipe Massa on row 2. Things are getting better for Rubens in 5th, Ralf Schumacher, Toyota, 6th. Trulli makes it 2 Toyotas in the top 10, Jenson Button struggling in 8th. When will we see the peak from this McLaren? Raikkonen 9th, Heidfeld 10th. Webber, first time this season outside the top 10, Montoya didn't even make it into the top 10 shootout. Rosberg for Williams, and Klein disappointed down in 14th. The 2 Toro Rossos of Liuzzi and Speed make up row 8. Row 9, the 2 Midland F1s of Montero and Albers. Row 10, Sato and Frank Montagny in the Super Aguris. And at the back, David Coulthard, who had a water pipe failure in qualifying, and Jacques Villeneuve, who had to change an engine.
Where did that come from? Was that something extra deep within you?
Yeah, I think coming from the people that push me to the limits here.
But the pole was what you needed today?
Yeah, I think it's always important. Clean side and the wrong side here makes a little bit different, so much better to be first than second. So it was really close with Fisi, so I was in the clean side tomorrow, so happy.
It's going to be a tough race for everybody here, physically and mechanically, for the tires, for the cars. Ferrari looks very strong on the race distance, but I think we're there, so it's going to be a very interesting race.
Did you think you might be able to make it onto the pole?
Oh, we were trying. I mean, you push for it, but then we knew that we maybe set up better for the race in terms of tyre side.
Well, we shall see in less than an hour, and Alonso's lead remains comfortable in the Drivers' Championship. 13 points the gap to Michael Schumacher, but Schumacher is starting to make inroads after victory in the last 2 races. Alonso will feel he must reassert his dominance today, especially in front of his Spanish fans. And the view from in front of the Renault garage here really emphasizes the sense of Spanish expectation here at the circuit today. This is Fernando Alonso's car, and when he climbs into the cockpit in about 20 minutes' time and that monitor is taken down, he'll be staring straight into the eyes of what will be a vast army of Alonso fans out there in the main stand. And you get a real sense of the kind of extra fan power that they provided yesterday, urging Fernando along to that astonishing qualifying lap. And Mark Blundell, this crowd is worth a few extra tenths, isn't it?
It is incredible. It's people power for sure, and it's an amazing thing, that crowd out there with that support, what it can fix on a car. It can fix a bit of understeer, fix a bit of oversteer, just getting the roar of the crowd, and that's what Alonso had yesterday.
And he's such a cool guy. He reacts to it, doesn't he?
He does indeed. He just sucks it all up and uses it to benefit himself, and you just saw it in that lap that he did. It was a tremendous lap. He just pulled the extra little bit out of himself, not the car, himself personally.
Conditions today near enough ideal. It's pleasantly warm. What sort of effect will that have on what is always a demanding race on tyres?
Well, you know, I think it's going to play into the hands of Michelin. I think they are going to have a situation where the heat's building up now, track temperature's climbing. It's a little bit different to what the guys tested maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, and it's going to really be a strong situation for Renault during the race.
And it's a tough one on the drivers as well, isn't it?
It is tough. These corners here over 4.5 G, long corners as well, a little load on the body physically, and the concentration and focus starts to get waned at the end of the race. So, you know, a tough one for these guys.
Well, Martin Brundle can remind us of the demands of the circuit of Catalunya and also take a closer look at that great lap of Alonso's yesterday.
The Catalunya racetrack for the Spanish Grand Prix. It's a few miles north of Barcelona in a rather dodgy-looking industrial estate, but it's a fine racetrack. The lap record is a 1:15.6. We're about to go considerably faster than that with Fernando Alonso in the Renault. Now, the lap starts off reasonably textbook style. We're heading down into turn 1. Ignore the traffic on the right-hand side. 195 miles an hour, bring it down to about 80 through this first, what is effectively a chicane, turns 1 and 2. Turn 3 then, you need to watch the last one from behind a pillow. He is barely going to lift the throttle. At well over 160 miles an hour, like threading the eye of a needle through the exit, over the line he goes. He knows immediately that was one fine lap.
Great stuff, and watching with admiration from the Renault garage yesterday was Carlos Sainz, the man who put Spain on the World Rally Championship map down the years. But how impressed were you with what Fernando did yesterday?
I think not only from yesterday, so far he has been doing a very good season, and yesterday he put a pole position in an impressive way, and I think today it's going to be difficult, but of course all of us we are supporting.
How well do you know him, and how impressed are you by the way he handles everything that surrounds this event in particular?
I think every day surprise us with more and more. I know from Fernando from Lom, from when he was karting, and obviously he has done a very, very good job in the last 5-6 years.
In your time in the World Rally Championship, what extra kind of seconds did this crowd and this kind of support give to you?
Well, I was very lucky as well to become the first world champion in Spain on rally, and I remember at that time as well, Catalunya Rally was very, very crowded, and of course a lot of support, but Formula One here today, it's first time also for Fernando to become the first world champion, and you can see the result.
Could possibly be another great motorsport day for Spain today. Carlos, great to see you here, and enjoy the afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Let's just take a closer look at what Fernando Alonso has achieved in his already quite brief Formula One career. Just 24 years old, 73 races though under his belt, 10 wins, the youngest ever Formula One world champion. He's got himself a place in Formula One history, and everyone admires his amazing talent.
and this is a little bit new for me when I always try to do my job in go-karts in different categories. I was travel alone. Now I feel very strange but very happy.
He's a great champion. I think he's the best now in the Formula One.
Fernando Alonso, it's from our city. It's the best man in the world.
Zapatilla, Alonso.
He's the best. He's the only hero in Spain.
All that public adoration can be rather overwhelming for a very private man like Fernando Alonso. He's much happier here in the controlled environment of the paddock, where he's a very well-respected member of the Formula One community.
Big word with Alonso is he's got the desire, and that's great. That's what I like about him, and he's a competitive beast.
It's a good combination of intelligence and fast speed. So I think at the moment he probably is, alongside Michael, very best of the race.
Just imagine a bull, a bull, and when he gets down to it, he sees red everywhere, and he goes at it really hard. He's very strong in the races.
To have, like me, a competitive car and win races is it's nothing really special coming from me. It's just to have the luck to be in my position.
Whether you admire Fernando Alonso for his skill, bravery or achievements, or maybe because he drove for Minardi, does drive for Renault or will drive for McLaren, we all agree on one thing.
Very fast.
Very fast.
Quick.
He's fast.
We need to win. To be honest, we need the victory here, and I think we can do it.
Well, I think you got the message by now. He's a bit of a class act, Fernando Alonso, but how important is it for him today to have his teammate Giancarlo Fisichella on the front row with him?
It's very important because he needs Giancarlo to really back him up, and don't let Michael Schumacher overtake him and Massa and start scoring those valuable points, not only for the drivers but the constructors' title as well. So Fisichella has an important role today.
We're used to a couple of tactical races, and they've been quite absorbing the last two Grand Prix, but is this going to be a tactical team race with an all-Ferrari second row?
I think it's going to be a tactical race between Ferrari and Renault because they're containing themselves in those first couple of rows. Pat Simmons, great brain. Ross Brawn, another great brain. So you're going to see the tactics on the circuit, but they're also going to be in the pit lane as well between those two guys in particular.
What might come from further back down the grid? And you have to go quite a way further back to find the McLarens.
You do. You have to go a long way back, and I'm a little bit concerned about the pace of those guys. I think they will go as normal long in the first stop. It's a normal strategy, something they've done, a conservative route. And I think at the end of the day, you might see Raikkonen creeping in with a 5th or 6th place, but that's really not where they should be.
We shall talk some more in a few minutes' time, but we're used to Alonso and we're used to Schumacher creating Formula One history, but today Britain's David Coulthard creates history himself. He joins an exclusive club of 9 drivers to have passed the 200 Grand Prix mark. His 200th Grand Prix start today. Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello, the only others on that list still racing. He's also one of only 4 drivers to have scored at least 500 points. Well, he's at the back of the grid after going off in the first qualifying session yesterday. No way to celebrate, really, but this morning, at least he was joined by Louise.
Not a brilliant way to be starting the 200th Grand Prix, though, is it?
No, it was obviously very disappointing yesterday. Unusual, the situation we had at the time. I thought it was suspension failure, but in actual fact it was a water leak from the radiator onto the rear tyre. And yeah, it's going to be a long, hard afternoon.
Quite ironic that you're starting your 200th Grand Prix where same place as it all began when you were a wee 23-year-old laddie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember that Grand Prix well. But unfortunately that race, I didn't actually finish, but hopefully this one I will.
Well, you finished quite a few since then. A few notches on your rear wing end plate, so to speak.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, a few notches there. And yeah, I hadn't really thought too much about the statistic before coming here, but I do feel quite proud of the fact that this 200 Grand Prix, you know, that doesn't happen by accident, you know, and I still have genuinely the same enthusiasm today, you know, race day, going to the track as I did when I first came in 1994.
And you're the last British winner of a Grand Prix. Which of your wins stands out in your mind most?
I still say that the Magny-Cours one, which I can never quite remember the year, I think it might have been 2001, the one where I battled with Michael and then gave him the little wave when I passed him. And because there was just so much emotion and passion went into that particular race. But of course, British Grand Prix is an amazing one to win, to stand in front of the home crowd. And of course, Monaco, because it's just such a crazy challenge.
But not much chance of a win today?
No, there's no chance of a victory, but it's another Grand Prix, it's another opportunity to develop the car. And, you know, so therefore we'll take it as a challenge it is.
Well, I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
David Coulthard still the last British winner of a Formula One Grand Prix. In fact, it's now 56 Grand Prix since the last British success, the longest run in Formula One history without a British victory. Well, it's meant to be Jenson Button who is going to be our next Grand Prix winner, and I'm sure it will come. But immediate hopes for Jenson and Honda are receding somewhat. I talked to Jenson a bit earlier. Jenson, before we get to any of the more awkward topics, your own thoughts about your old friend David Coulthard, who reaches that 200 Grand Prix milestone this weekend. How would you sum up what he's achieved in a long career?
He's achieved a lot, you know. He's won 13 races. A lot of people forget how many races he's won. Also, he's finished second in the championship and been very, very close to winning the World Championship. He hasn't achieved that, and I'm sure that hurts a little bit, but you know, he's had a fantastic career, and to reach 200 Grand Prix is stunning. You know, there are only two other drivers on the grid. One's my teammate, Rubens, and the other one's Michael.
For you, we saw you at the end of qualifying yesterday, and you looked exasperated. You looked a bit confused and a bit down, but you've recovered.
Yeah, I was, and there's a good reason for that. You know, Quali 1 and Quali 2 were great. The car was working exceptionally well. We're very, very happy. And also in qualifying 3, you know, the laps we do at the beginning there to burn the fuel off, I was pushing to just get a feeling for the car, and I was feeling really good. The first new tyre run in Q3 was good, and I thought, oh, just tweak it a little bit, add a little bit more front wing, which will give the car more downforce at the front, a little bit more front grip. We did that, and I had massive amounts of understeer, and so we've been looking into the reasons for that, and we've found the reasons. I can't say it now, but so it's very disappointing, and hopefully it won't be a problem in the race.
So you're confident you got that sorted, so reasons for being optimistic about this afternoon then?
That the car's good. The long run pace is probably the best it's been this year. The only problem is I'm behind two Toyotas. I'm not saying they're the slowest people on the grid, but they're very difficult to overtake, and I think our pace is going to be a lot better than theirs.
But the whole season and so far, and in particular the last few frustrating Grand Prix, it's all been a question of just fighting problems all the time. That must be wearing the team out to a sense.
It has, and you know, the car is it's not a winning car at the moment, but we've had a chance to get some really good results, and I've lost a lot of points through reliability issues or as a team us making mistakes. So it's disappointing, but we've learned from those mistakes, and we're not discouraged by it at all. You know, we're still all very positive, as we should be, but we know that we need to improve.
We've done more laps around here than just about anybody else. Make them count today. All the best.
Thank you. Cheers.
So Honda still looking for answers, but they have to do it under some fairly intense scrutiny. The modern pit lane full of cameras, and at times full of onlookers in the pit lane walkabout as well, yet the teams are quite neurotic about security. Tactics and expensive technological developments remain very closely guarded secrets. But as Ted Kravitz reports, that's just a bit of a challenge for the Formula One spies.
Anything that moves up and down this paddock, there's somebody watching.
Who spies?
Well, I think everybody does. Black propaganda, misinformation, disinformation, it all exists.
Oh, I think everyone copies everyone else.
Espionage is part of the sport and always has been. Technical decisions and commercial decisions can be worth tens of millions of dollars, and when that sort of money's around, people will go to pretty extreme levels.
So while every F1 team in this pit lane spies on each other, over the years many of their methods have been more Pink Panther than James Bond.
My favourite one, and I can't name the teams for obvious reasons, but I can name the car they were measuring. It was a Williams back in the early 80s, and one team sent an entire crew in the middle of the night, broke into a garage, the Williams garage, did all the necessary measurements, and funnily enough, next year's car looked awfully like a Williams and was a lot more competitive.
Probably 50% of your ideas come from internally, from the guys inside, and 50% are stimulated through looking at other cars. You can't be too proud and say, well, I'm not going to take any ideas from anyone else, because that would be crazy.
And to acquire those ideas, the teams used spy photography. A famous spy shot exposed McLaren's secret second brake pedal here on the far left back in '98.
I was accused of kind of brown envelopes and espionage and all this kind of thing, but we were just doing our job. We knew it would upset McLaren, but you know, sometimes you have to accept that. Suddenly it was security lockdown.
You'll have a photographer that you use, everyone does it, that they'll say, well, that, you know, a new part of another car looks interesting, take a few photos of that.
The market is created by them. We get the heat put on us, but without them asking, we wouldn't photograph the parts on the cars that perhaps they're interested in. We wouldn't notice that they're new from race to race.
No conversation is ever secret. Teams have used listening devices, bugs, even lip readers.
You shine a laser beam on a window, and the window shudders with the voice, and it can be turned back by strange computer things into voices, and you know what's being said. And I know there are teams that have double glazing on their motorhomes just to make sure that doesn't happen.
And all the key meetings happen here in Bernie Ecclestone's bus. No one really knows what these oval sensors do. You can be sure they're not for reverse parking. As for pit-to-car radio, Ferrari encrypt theirs, but others don't.
We've been in a position to listen to other teams for sure. Did you learn anything by it? Not really. You know, it's very visible. If the guy's quick, he's quick, and if the guy's slow, he's slow.
We're all very used to having our every move covered by CCTV cameras in our daily life, and in the secrecy-obsessed world of Formula One, it's no different. Look at the little camera here on the Red Bull garage wall, just to keep an eye on the car and anybody in here who shouldn't be. The counter-surveillance operatives, or bouncers, are on every garage door. Some are ex-special forces, some aren't.
I'm sorry, no entrance.
It's the security guard's job to check passes and make sure someone's authorised to be there.
I know people who've employed some old-fashioned secret agent types to make sure that nothing disappears from their trucks. People are sort of hanging around looking like security men.
And inevitably, drivers and engineers will take secrets from team to team when they change jobs.
It's quite straightforward for me. You know, when you're with a team, you're married to that team, and everything should be held within the debrief room. You know, the old expression, knowledge is power. So let's just try and have all the knowledge we can and not give anything away.
You know, there is a movement of people, and you can't sort of stick the high-pressure hose in one ear and wash out their brain when they leave one company. So the movement of people is about that. It's about trying to bring in the sort of fundamentals of other teams into your own team. You try to expand the team all the time. You expand it by people, but you also expand it by knowledge.
So in this money-obsessed sport, everyone's keeping an eye on everyone else. They're all paranoid, and so they should be.
All except Fernando Alonso, who has the helmet on and is all set to take that Renault out in front of his adoring fans around this circuit to Catalunya. They'd love to know the secrets of Renault's success, wouldn't they, Mark?
They would indeed, but you know, the thing with Alonso, he's such an old hag on young shoulders. It's amazing. You see the guy's got so much pressure on him here at this race. He just doesn't worry one little bit. Just brushes it off his shoulders and gets on with the job.
The drivers tend to get into a bit of a pre-race routine. I mean, here we are half an hour before the start, but it's time to get yourself into what they call in other sports some kind of a zone, isn't it?
Yeah, I think very much so. But, you know, the thing what amazes me with Grand Prix drivers is they get into that zone, but it's also the fact that one of us will come along and stick a microphone in their face only a couple of minutes before they go off with 800 horsepower under the right foot. You don't see that in very many sports at all, and I think it's a testament to these guys that they can get the concentration and do that.
We've been saying in our build-up that Fernando is very much a private kind of guy. I mean, he doesn't relish this kind of attention, certainly away from the racetrack, but he's well equipped to handle today, isn't he?
He's very well equipped. You know, 24 years old, already a world champion. There's so much more ahead of the guy. And I think with this kind of support, this is the closest I've seen to the Tifosi in Italy with Ferrari. I haven't seen anything like this before. This is an amazing thing, and he will only thrive off it. He's that kind of person.
OK, they're all set to go here down the pit lane. I think Ted's got some news down at Honda.
Yes, thanks very much, Steve. And the big news this morning is that breakaway series, you might remember, that some of the teams were talking about, has gone away. So Formula One will be continuing through into the future with all the teams that are currently on the grid and maybe more. Nick, your team, Honda, was one of those 5 teams threatening a breakaway series. Why have you all agreed now to ditch that idea?
Well, we signed a document this morning with the other manufacturers' teams, which was jointly developed between us, Mr. Ecclestone's team, and CVC, which is the financial money behind Mr. Ecclestone, which really provides the basis for agreement up to 2012. So it's good news. I've yet to see Mr. Ecclestone's signature on it, but hopefully that'll come later today. But this whole document forms the basis for the Concord Agreement, which is the agreement between the teams, the commercial organisation, and then the FIA. And so this is a really good step in the right direction.
Okay, thanks very much, Nick. Back to you, Steve.
Okay, and here at Renault, the world champion Fernando Alonso is on his way. Giancarlo Fisichella behind us as others head out onto the circuit. And it's a wonderful, wonderful atmosphere, especially around here at the Renault garage. A great sense of optimism and a great sense of occasion here.
Very much. I think the whole team are behind both their drivers. They're both sitting there on the front row. They know they've got a lot to look forward to. There's a lot of pressure here. All these guys now, the cars have gone out, the drivers are doing their job. These guys behind us have got a lot more work to do, and none of them can relax. Very important time.
And in the main stand opposite, the sound of these V8 Formula One engines has certainly brought the crowd alive, and they're longing to see these guys on the grid, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, look at them. They're just standing on their feet. There's not one of them sitting down on their backside. And I think it's just a great thing to see. 120,000 people in Spain. I can tell you, Steve, 10 years ago you turn up here, there'd be 10 people. It's an unbelievable turnaround.
Okay, while we're waiting for that grid to assemble, and we'll be out there with it in about 5 minutes' time. Well, the topic was Formula One security a short time ago, and we've got a few secrets we can reveal on the ITV F1 website. The ITV website is where you get all the background information on everything that surrounds Formula One. And any further questions can be directed at Mark Blundell in our question mark feature. Mark provides the answers during our race day build-up. Contact him on paddock@itv-f1.com. And he can provide answers like this.
Bob Burling from Croydon in Cambridgeshire asked, do the drivers look after their own crash helmets during the season? Well, the answer to that, Bob, is no, they don't. Peter Berger's here from RI Helmets. Peter, tell us a little bit about these.
Yeah, I'm here to help the drivers during the season to stay in a comfortable shape during the race weekend, and I have to apply the helmets to the weather condition and to the needs of the drivers. For instance, you can see that they use different kind of visors, like mirror one on Kimi's, or a black one on Fernando's, or a light smoke here on Taku's helmet. And I do also mount the tear-off visors on the helmet. I made a little sample here. You can see they take one off in the car when it gets dirty, throw that out of the car. The other tear-off deploys, and then you can take that one off as well and throw it out of the car, so you can only take off one at a time.
Okay, if the weather conditions are bad, like rain?
We have a double screen lens. You see the interior double visor, which is fully fog-free, and so you have clear vision during the race.
Okay. How many helmets would the drivers get supplied during the season?
Depends a little bit on their contract, but it's between 6 and 12 a season.
Thank you, Peter. Well, I hope that answers your question, Bob.
The website is where you can also get information on the ITV F1 competition, which offers great prizes, such as the VIP Grand Prix trip being enjoyed here in Barcelona by Andrew and Janet McCloskey, who won the chance to be the guests of Williams at this Spanish Grand Prix, getting a tremendous insight into a Grand Prix weekend. And today's competition offers a similar trip to glamorous Monaco.
If you fancy a taste of the Formula One high life, then this is the competition for you. This week we're giving away a trip to Monaco, the most glamorous Grand Prix of them all, with flights and accommodation at the 5-star Vista Palace Hotel. You'll watch the race from a yacht in the harbour and get a 3-day VIP pass to the best club in town, where you can party with the drivers on Sunday night. To be in with a chance of winning this amazing prize courtesy of Amber Lounge, you just need to answer this easy question. Which British driver is part owner of a hotel in Monaco? Is it A, Jenson Button, B, David Coulthard, or C, Anthony Davidson? The number to call is 0901 293 2020, or you can text F1 plus A, B or C to 63337. Calls and texts cost £1 plus the standard network rate, and lines close at midnight this coming Thursday.
Good luck with that. And the official attendance has just been announced here at the Circuit de Catalunya. 131,200 spectators are here. And with the cars heading onto the grid, the tension goes up a few notches. They can see their heroes, and they can see one hero in particular. We'll be on the grid as well in a few minutes' time. For one afternoon at least, Barcelona has forgotten about the Champions League final, and the Formula One faithful have assembled, 131,000 of them, to urge their world champion Fernando Alonso to a first ever Spanish victory in the Spanish Grand Prix. Nico Rosberg is trying to get some shelter down there as the temperatures rise steadily in terms of tension and in terms of the weather as well. Jenson Button a little way back down that grid on row 4. Louise is down there, Martin Brundle is there as well, and I think Louise has got Juan Pablo Montoya.
Juan Pablo, what do you think of this crowd? I know they're not wearing your colours or necessarily cheering for you, but they're something special, aren't they?
Yeah, it's quite nice. You know, there are actually quite a lot of Colombians here. It's really nice to see. You know, there's a lot of people cheering for Fernando, and you know, it's nice to see. You know, it's nice to see a crowd like this.
What's happening with you? Way down on the grid, problems in qualifying that weren't of your making. Just tell us about that.
It's the first time we were out of the top 10. It was a bit frustrating. We had some problems yesterday when we ran the second set of tires in the second qualifying. We had a problem with the fuel and I had to come in for fuel. Tires got cold and that was it. But you know, we're still a little bit down where we want to be, and just the car's not quick enough at the moment.
Have a good one.
Okay.
Yes, McLaren with some serious problems. They're thinking that they're making progress, Mark, but it's not significant enough progress at the moment as Michael Schumacher seeks some shade and maybe some refreshment as well. Comfort break, as they call it.
He needs a comfort break. It's going to be a long race. But McLaren, as you say, Steve, are struggling. They're not really getting anything done. They've done the last few races with the same kind of strategy, the same kind of tactics, and the same kind of performance levels. We haven't seen the increase there, but I know for a fact that they're sure going to get something done in the next couple of Grand Prix. They've got a lot of things happening back at the factory.
It's been disappointing as well after a good start to the season from the Williams point of view. Mark Webber is on row 6. Nico Rosberg also missed the top 10 shootout. He's back on row 7. Let's hear from Nico now.
Well, Nico keeping nice and cool here, but not the race preparation, the build-up that you really wanted.
Well, no, I think, yeah, qualifying didn't go quite as well as we would have wanted, but I think we struggled a little bit in qualifying and we were then quicker in the race. So, you know, I mean, last time I started from dead last and finished 7th, so I think it's still good possibilities today to get some good points together with Mark.
Is it going to be pretty hot out there?
Yeah, I'd imagine, yeah. It's not going to be too cold, that's for sure.
We're a third of the way into the season, and it's important that someone from the middle of the pack really starts to close the gap on this lot at Renault and also Ferrari. Third of the season gone, someone's got to make a move.
Well, someone has to make a move, and those guys you would think would be McLaren, would be Honda. We heard from Jenson Button earlier, he had some problems at the front end of his car, and for some strange reason it seems that it's losing front aerodynamic downforce, and you know, that's a weird one for a driver to try and contemplate and understand. I think the team have found out what the issue needs to be, or sorted it out now. I think you're going into the race a little bit stronger. Definitely from a psychological point of view, he'd be more up for the job.
Ralf Schumacher we caught a glimpse of there. He's qualified pretty well in the Toyota on row 3 alongside Rubens Barrichello. How significant and how demoralising is it from Jenson's point of view to be out-qualified by his teammate again?
Well, it's not easy for Jenson to take all that on board. Obviously, that whole team came in with big expectations. There was a lot of hype about Jenson's performance linked to what the car could do. It hasn't happened so far. Now the couple of races we've done now, been out-qualified by Rubens. I don't think that's going to be a pattern which will stay for the rest of the season. I think Jenson will be back there in his normal qualifying form.
It's the first all-Renault front row since, China last year. How well equipped are they here this afternoon to really dominate this race?
They could dominate this very easily indeed. I think the big thing for Renault is that Fisichella's up there and as strong as ever, and just a nanosecond behind Alonso in performance as well. That's a big leap forward to have the team as strong as that. Ferrari, we do know, are very strong also, with Massa also coming through. But it's a tyre war at the end of the day. That's what we're going to see. I think Michelin are going to be strong. Yesterday I would have said to you Bridgestone and Ferrari, and I did say that. I could be well proved wrong today, Steve.
And there's Giancarlo Fisichella, who has such an important role alongside Alonso on that front row. Similar role for Felipe Massa on row 2, alongside Michael Schumacher. Now, Martin Brundle is where a lot of Spanish fans would love to be right now. He's out there on the grid as well. Martin.
You're absolutely right. As you're coming through the Spanish flag, just look at this magnificent grandstand and how many people we've got on the grid today. And it's just a sea of people, absolutely incredible. Now, I'm going to try and get us to talk to Fernando Alonso, who's popped off the grid for a moment, but I think that's probably a snowball in hell's chance of actually getting hold of him today. Let's get hold of his boss, Flavio, who's busy talking at the moment to another TV station. What about Fisichella on the front row of the grid? Let's find Patricia. Patricia, is Giancarlo around or Fernando? Preferably. They're all talking today. Let's get hold of Flab before he goes too far away, and I'll come back to him. And we're desperate to talk to Alonso. We need to know what he's got to say for himself this afternoon. He's off the grid at the moment, Patricia, but no, he's not on the grid. We're going to come back, so we're struggling at the moment. Flavio, ciao.
Oh, my friend.
How's it going? Listen, what are
you doing here?
Same as you, actually. I've come to watch a motor race. Now, we want to talk to Fernando. We need to know what's going through his mind at this important time. But I hear Renault have just announced they're around till 2012.
My God, it's a long time, no?
I know. Are you going to be there too?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't know yet. Fernando, we believe we are competitive. But we believe as well Ferrari is really, really competitive. We see Ferrari with the Bridgestone package is amazing. And sure, it's quicker than us. What we try to do is the best.
Okay, now are you going to use Fizzy to help with the strategy? Like for sure they're going to use Massa. It's like a 4-car fight, really.
I don't think so. I think so. We need to start the race after see what happens. But everybody is not team order for the moment. Let's see what happens. Team order is not allowed to do, and see what happens. I think so. We need racing for entertaining people, entertaining the public. I believe it's a fantastic crowd today, and we try to do the best.
I bet you'll still use him later. Make sure we get hold of Alonso when we come back if we can. A quick look with Felipe Massa, who's on the second row of the grid. He's not going to be there. He is over here. That's Michael Schumacher's car. The Ferraris, everybody in the paddock thinks that the Ferraris are flying. There's an actor on the grid I want to talk to as well. Owen Wilson, Starsky and Hutch fame, and John Lasseter, the great animator. Hello, gentlemen. So what brings you to this grid? Are you petrol heads? And you've got a movie coming out next month, Cars, yep?
Got a movie coming out called Cars, and we're here doing some publicity for the movie, and also we got a chance to meet some of the drivers who also did voices in the movie, like Michael Schumacher, so it's exciting to get to meet these guys in real life.
Now, John, you just recently flogged Pixar to Disney for $7 billion or something. Why don't you come and buy a Grand Prix team?
Well, it's not a bad idea, but I tell you, it's my first time at a Grand Prix race, and it's phenomenal. This is unbelievable. I've been to lots of NASCAR races, but there's nothing like this. This is great.
Okay, and who do you fancy for the win? You're standing near Ferrari. Is that who you're supporting today?
Well, we got Michael Schumacher does a voice in our movie, Cars. And in Spain, Fernando Alonso does a voice too, so it's pretty exciting.
Okay, I'm going to go and find Alonso. See you later, guys. Thank you. Right, this is going to have to be quick, I suspect. And is he over at his gun? Okay, he's making his way to the right. We're going to have to doorstep him in here. Can we make it through here? Yeah. Fernando, quick chat as we walk to the grid. I love the way in the press conferences you're getting the mental picture with Michael. You said to him today 66 laps just wouldn't be enough. You want 100 laps in front of your fans. You feeling pressure?
No, no pressure. I think I enjoy every single lap in this race, and I think it will be a very special day for me. Hopefully I can get the result at the end.
Okay, a lot of support here for you, but you're going to be watching those Ferraris in your mirror. Are you expecting trouble from both of them? You think they could bring Massa into play and to spoil your strategy?
Yeah, I think so. I think both Ferraris are really strong today and nearly impossible to beat. We need something extra, and hopefully the people is giving this to us today.
Okay, thanks for your time, Fernando. Very, very much appreciate that. And there's another of my old teammates, I think, on the grid. Let's go and see if we can find him down here, because I think he's keen to have a chat. We haven't heard from him for a while. It's a bit of a run down here. Barrichello on the grid, and here he is. It's Massa. What are you doing here, Governor?
I'm achieving my third ambition in life, to be interviewed on the grid by Martin Brundle. Now I'm Honda's Formula One ambassador, and I'm learning there's a whole new world on that side of the circuit. Fantastic.
Do you like this whole new world? Is it good when you get there?
Oh, Martin, it is absolutely sensational. I thought Formula One was magic before, but now I know it is.
I thought you'd retired, you daft old sod. What are you doing here? Are you supposed to be on a beach somewhere?
You know what it is. The lure of Formula One is irresistible. And I was out of it for 4 years doing odds and ends. And then I was asked to come back and do one or two things. And I'm back and enjoying every second. And I'm back with my friends and finding out a whole lot of things I didn't know before. That won't be news to them, of course, will it?
No, is your Honda team going to do any good today?
Well, we hope so. Fingers crossed. Rubens is going to make a dash for it at the start, I can tell you that.
OK, well, it's good to see you. Back to you, Steve.
Cheers, Marty. Great to see Murray. The answer to all Honda's problems, well, possibly anyway. Michael Schumacher has problems off the second row in catching Fernando Alonso. Raikkonen has serious problems back down the grid. But what about that Ferrari out-and-out speed? How important an element is that going to be today?
It's going to be very important. We've seen throughout the whole weekend that Ferrari have been carrying about 6 to 7 kilometers more than any other car behind them, and that's a big thing. Renault may get the grid start, and we know that they're fast starters, but if the Ferrari gets tucked up behind in a slipstream, it could easily pass going into that first corner.
But this is a bit like Imola, isn't it? It's a tough circuit to overtake on.
It is a tough circuit, but when you've got that kind of straight line speed advantage, it's going to be quite easy, and that's what I'm really interested to see what happens today. It's going to be whether Michelin and Renault can hold on lap after lap, and whether the Bridgestones with that Ferrari advantage in straight line speed is just going to have enough to cruise by Alonso and Fisichella.
Yes, there was a feeling that maybe the Bridgestone tyres were starting to suffer just a little bit yesterday, and the temperatures are pretty warm out there.
Yeah, just a little bit of an understeer issue, which seems to be graining the front tyres, and I think that could be the thing that's going to hold them up, Steve. These long, hard corners, just putting a lot of load on the left front, and that's the problem they've got to look out for.
Juan Pablo Montoya, they're looking to make a charge alongside his McLaren teammate Mark Webber with a great deal of work to do. But what an afternoon this could be for Spanish Formula One. And what an examination it is of the strength of the Schumacher-Ferrari revival. Alonso is the man to catch. They'll be clearing the grid and counting down to the start of this Spanish Grand Prix when we return in just a few minutes' time.
С вами вновь РЕН-ТВ, российский голос Формулы-1 в прямом эфире с трассы Монтмело, Каталуния, арены Гран-при Испании, 6-го этапа чемпионата мира 2006 года. На пол-позишн Фернандо Алонсо. Именно ради него сегодня на трибуны, по предварительным прикидкам организаторов, пришло 135 тысяч зрителей. Ни одного свободного места, несмотря на то, что в межсезонье здесь были построены две новые огромные дополнительные трибуны. И вообще, если говорить о количестве зрителей по ходу этого уикенда, то оно превосходит все самые смелые ожидания. В четверг, когда на трассе не было ни одной машины, 32 тысячи зрителей. Во время свободных заездов в пятницу 67 тысяч. И ради этого Фернандо Алонсо даже изменил вот таким традиционным тактикам Рено, которые в первой части свободных заездов берегут моторы, вообще не покидают боксы. Фернандо Алонсо дважды выезжал, пусть и на медленной скорости, но проехал поприветствовать вот эти огромное количество зрителей. 67 тысяч в пятницу, но еще больше вчера, в субботу, во время квалификации. В их числе был и Хуан Карлос, король сейчас был Испании на ваших экранах. 112 тысяч зрителей вчера в субботу, и Фернандо Алонсо подарил им пол, да, 11-й в своей карьере, да, второй подряд и второй в этом сезоне, но впервые он выиграл квалификацию здесь перед своими зрителями. Вообще нужно заметить, что особым разнообразием борьба здесь за пол-позишн никогда не отличалась, потому что из действующих пилотов лишь Жак Вильнёв в далеком 97-м и Кими Рэйкконен в прошлом году смогли побить гегемонию Михаэля Шумахера. 7 пол-позишн у красного барона. И таким образом вчера он вновь мог побороться за пол. Именно он выиграл две последние гонки. Но, как мы уже говорили, в итоге уступил 0,3 секунды. Хотя и опередил Фелипе Массу. Его партнер по команде был быстр по ходу свободных заездов, по ходу всей квалификации, кроме самого последнего круга, где Михаэль Шумахер все же выиграл вот это внутрикомандное соревнование в Феррари. Но Феррари лишь на втором ряду.
Spain had never had a Formula One world champion. They still haven't had a Spanish winner of this Spanish Grand Prix, but it's Fernando Alonso on pole position in front of 131,000 fans here at the Circuit de Catalunya. Round 6 of the Formula One World Championship. Stand by for a thrilling afternoon with Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thank you very much, Steve. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Barcelona. Certainly, as far as this crowd is concerned, blue is the colour and racing is very definitely the game. The blue you'll see around the track in all the grandstands, the colour of Fernando Alonso's home region of Asturias in northwestern Spain. And by a happy coincidence, it's also the corporate colours of Renault Formula One. And boy, have they sold some T-shirts and some hats this weekend. 130,000 sellout crowd and a wonderful, wonderful atmosphere. This is the story of how one man, a shy and modest 24-year-old, gave a nation a new sporting passion. We saw it a decade ago with Michael Schumacher in Germany, and now the Spanish have gone mad, literally, for Fernando Alonso. Another big event taking place here on Wednesday night, of course. You can watch it on ITV1, the Champions League final between Barcelona and Arsenal, taking place in Paris on Wednesday night, the 17th of May. And that's going to be a high-quality sporting occasion as well. But I fancy we're in for a wonderful day here, a marvellous atmosphere. You can hear the bands playing in the background. They've been singing and chanting in the stands all morning. But it's going to be a very tense race, I think, for this capacity crowd. And for the King of Spain there, who's always on the phone to Alonso after a victory. He's done so much for Spain in the motorsport arena, Fernando Alonso. But he's chasing this one today a little bit as we look down on the grid. The two Ferraris behind him, they believe they've got 3 to 4/10 of a second advantage in performance. And, well, Alonso's going to have to do something very clever to keep the Ferraris behind him for 66 racing laps. His biggest asset, you can see alongside him, is Giancarlo Fisichella, his teammate. Could be a little bit like China last year when Renault were trying to keep McLaren at bay. If you remember, Fisichella was the rear gunner there as Alonso scampered off into the distance. And they do need something like that today because Schumacher is going to pose a serious threat. Well, it's a very, very busy grid down there. You can see as we roll through. Just 2 minutes to go before the race starts. All the mechanics still on the track. Raikkonen, you see down there in 9th place. Jenson Button was in 8th. Webber and Montoya, the surprise, not included in the top 10. They missed out in the shootout yesterday. Rosberg, who seems to specialise in coming through strongly from towards the back of the grid, is in 13th place. David Coulthard, celebrating his 200th Grand Prix start, is in 21st place. He had a water pipe failure on his car on the early part of qualifying yesterday, sprayed water all over the tyres and pitched him off the road. And Jacques Villeneuve, who's been driving brilliantly of late, he starts at the very back, having had to take an engine penalty. But I think we've all mentioned it, Martin. Fisichella absolutely critical. Difficult for him getting off the dirty side of the track, but he's got a serious job to do today, hasn't he?
It's a long run down to the first corner too. But it doesn't matter who you talk to, whether it's Renault, whether it's McLaren. They're all talking about the Ferrari pace. Now, I thought I saw them with some graining in their front tyres, struggling with understeer. A few times we cut to Michael Schumacher on board with armfuls of steering lock on and foot coming off the throttle in turn 3. Which is a classic corner if you've got an imbalance problem. But the field, the rest of the teams have got data from the long runs, and they're absolutely convinced that Ferrari is the car to beat today. So we'll see how that one unfolds. So there's going to be a lot of strategy, a bit of skullduggery maybe even to make sure that the blue cars stay ahead of the red cars if they can achieve that. But I think we should see a classic four-way scrap at the front. But just behind them, Toyota and Honda too, I think will have a solid pace, and surely the McLarens, and there's a Ferrari with its tyres, Michael Schumacher's tyres coming off pretty late actually, but all the mechanics are away now. Within, they've got to be gone 15 seconds before the light, about 18 now, 16 seconds, so all the mechanics have to be away from the cars, and they are. But critical, they have to press all sorts of buttons and systems. They have to make sure they don't do something silly. One or two, won't name the drivers, but one or two drivers already made mistakes this year that create problems on the grid.
Saw Alonso clipping his visor down then. He said earlier in the weekend, pressure. I don't feel pressure here. Pressure comes from when you don't do the maximum. You feel you've let yourself down. He said it doesn't really matter where you're racing. once the visor goes down, you could be anywhere in the world. But he's also mindful of the fact that perhaps the crowd support roaring him on to great defeats. He believes that his pole position lap yesterday, a little bit of that was down to the crowd, but maybe that's just playing to the crowd a little bit. Who knows? He's certainly a showman when he wants to be, Alonso. That's the margin he has over Schumacher, 13 points in the Drivers' Championship. Raikkonen could do with a big score today as well. So whatever happens, Alonso will leave Barcelona still leading the World Championship, even if he doesn't finish and Michael Schumacher wins the race. But with the performance Ferrari have at the moment, obviously it's getting closer and closer all the time, and Schumacher is really breathing down Alonso's neck. One of the things, Martin, I think is going to be critical this afternoon, we saw in qualifying yesterday, is the straight line speed advantage of the Ferraris. I mean, it's absolutely enormous. It's as much as 9 or 10 miles an hour at the end of the long straight here. That's enough to overtake Grid, isn't it?
It is. The two Ferraris, though, start 16 metres. The best starts 16 metres behind Alonso. That Renault tends to grab 10 metres off the line, particularly in the second phase of the start process. In other words, when they get into second and third gear. But you're right, it is much faster than anything else, and it may give them an overtaking opportunity. Ferrari say they've got a supremely efficient aerodynamic package. Some of the other teams are ready to give the media data to show that maybe there's some deflection going on in their wings, so we have to tell it both ways, really. That's the two stories we get out of the paddock. But Ferrari saying, hey, hang on a minute, we've got a better aero package than the rest. That's why our car is faster in a straight line. We've got the downforce, but we haven't got quite as much drag as the others.
Well, one thing's for sure, both Fernando Alonso and Michael Schumacher have a colossal appetite for Formula One competition. Schumacher, despite having been around since 1991, the only Formula One driver to have been born in the 60s, he still has the same hunger today as he had when he first came into Formula One. And it's interesting, their careers are so similar at the same stage. Approaching 25, Alonso's won 10 races, so had Michael Schumacher at the same stage of his career. They both won one World Championship at that stage. So, just a little rear view freeze there from the local Spanish director. Got a wonderful camera in the complex towards the end of the lap. I'm sure they'll use it a lot in the during the course of this race. It really gets you close to the cars. Alonso very aggressive, warming the tyres up, getting heat into the rear tyres to get more bite off the start line.
Alonso back to pack up better today too. He got to the grid very early last weekend at the Nürburgring for his first pole position of the year, and then had to sit and wait while his engine was boiling and his tyres were cooling, as were his brakes. But still, the back end of the field, a long time forming up as they're busy sorting themselves out, trying not to run on the dirty side of the track too early, and still they're not in position. We used to get screamed at if we weren't in position in a certain amount of seconds, and I think they're going to have to reintroduce that.
Well, by the time they've gone 140 metres, they'll be travelling at 100 miles an hour. That's the acceleration of a Formula One car. The Spanish Grand Prix is away. Great formation start by both Renaults. Absolutely perfect start by Fisichella, tucking in behind his team leader Alonso as they come down. Massa on the left in the Ferrari. On the right is Michael Schumacher, but Fisichella closes him out. Schumacher very cautious there. Massa just drops a little bit of space. You can see Raikkonen attacking as well. That looks like a big good start from Kimi Raikkonen.
Yeah, Raikkonen a big winner there. So perfect formation start, as you say, James. Formation flying down into turn one, and they had it all choreographed as well when they got there, because it's so easy to go after you and then let somebody else through too. And Renault very much getting the job done down to that first corner. And now they'll be feverishly working out and reworking out the strategy on the pit wall. Now they've established, are we still on the racetrack, and what position are we down into turn one?
Alonso leads, Fisichella is second, Michael Schumacher is third, fourth is Massa, up to fifth from ninth on the grid is Kimi Raikkonen. And if his strategy of carrying more fuel today works out for him, then that big jump at the start, that could be a big advantage. Sixth is Rubens Barrichello, up to seventh from eighth on the grid is Jenson Button. Eighth is Ralf Schumacher, ninth is Jarno Trulli, and 10th, where he started, is Nick Heidfeld. David Coulthard, who started at the back of the grid, has already passed Albers, and he's having a go now at Frank Montagny as Alonso crosses the line at the end of the first lap. Already 3 seconds to the good over Michael Schumacher.
And that's the partisan marshals clapping him as he goes down the pit straight. It wasn't the fans, they can't get that close to the racetrack. Amazing. So Alonso leads by 1.6 seconds. Michael Schumacher, another 1.4 behind. So Alonso's lead over the Ferraris, 3 seconds at the end of the first lap. Stunning first lap for him, and Alonso very quick through this first sector too.
Well, we mentioned that Raikkonen was the big winner off the start line, up from 9th to 5th. As we take another look at the start, here's how it happened.
Yeah, somehow Raikkonen navigates 2 Hondas and 2 Toyotas on his way down to turn 1. Everybody away cleanly. It's not often you see them all get away as cleanly as that. The systems they've got in place now, and we can't really see Raikkonen up at the front, but he must have been last of the late breakers down there into turn 1. You can see the 2 red wings of the McLaren, and he's just clean gone round the outside of them. They've all been watching the Ferraris, and Kimi Raikkonen just went around the outside. So we're on board. We got away quite well. We're getting a fantastic slipstream behind all those cars. Now that is brave. I'd like to see that one again. That was good. And to risk going past 2 cars, and there he goes, straight around the outside. And he had a look at the Ferrari too. Stunning and brave first lap from Raikkonen.
Alonso now 2 seconds clear of his teammate, 4 seconds clear of Michael Schumacher. This is working out very nicely at the start for Fernando Alonso. Massa is still 4th, 5th Raikkonen 6 seconds behind. There are the 2 Toyotas. Well, Ralf Schumacher qualified in 6th place, 1 place ahead of teammate Trulli, but they are now circulating 8th and 9th with Trulli in front. So it was Ralf, the big loser, really, off the start line. And it looks like Jarno Trulli's fuel filler flap has come open.
That normally comes open with the pit lane speed limiter, so a malfunction there. Bad news though, because it disrupts the airflow going over your own rear wing. So apparently it's gone. I didn't actually see it up, but we had a report that the fuel flap was up and it's reset itself and gone down. Alonso's 2.2 seconds ahead. Coulthard already up to 17th place and hustling his teammate.
Good start also for Scott Speed, up to 13th in the Toro Rosso, 2 places ahead of his teammate Liuzzi. We've got a yellow flag. You can see that the lap counter at the top of your screens is yellow.
Come on, Ruben, settle down into a rhythm. Start pulling your way back to Raikkonen. He's no quicker than you.
That shot clear. The race engineer of Rubens Barrichello encouraging Rubens to get into the rhythm and start pushing. He is currently ahead of teammate Jenson Button. 6th and 7th, the 2 Hondas at the moment. And on that last lap, they were absolutely matched for pace. Jock Clear said that Raikkonen is not quicker than Rubens Barrichello. That's not quite true. On that last lap, half a second faster.
Alonso, new fastest lap of the race, a 1:18.1. A steady pace, really, but still considerably faster than anybody else. He stretches his lead to 3 seconds. And what is that? That is Montero spinning. That's why the yellow flags were out. Montero in the MF1 Toyota down at turn 5. Unusual to see a car spinning on the exit of a corner now with so much traction control available to them, unless it got a little tag from the back.
Well, all season long we've seen the Super Aguri starting very strongly from the back. They've got a Honda launch system, start system, which really gets them going. Takuma Sato's been running as high as 13th or 14th on the opening laps. Hasn't really worked out that way here. Teammate Frank Montagny is 18th, Sato 19th, with Villeneuve behind them, who started at the back of the grid, of course, Albers and Montero. So the 2 Midlands have been overtaken, but no one else today. Alonso leading then, as they come across the line to finish lap 4, waiting for Fisichella. He's taken another second out of Fisichella, and he's taken another 0.8 of a second out of Michael Schumacher, so 5 seconds in front now. Now, tactically, what we're expecting here this afternoon is the Renaults to pit around about lap 17 or 18, and we believe the Ferraris are going to go perhaps 2 laps longer. So a similar sort of scenario that we had in the Nürburgring last weekend, and that will make for a very tense race. But obviously Schumacher's objective at the first round of pit stops will be to get himself in front of Fisichella, and thereafter to try and chase down Alonso. But all of these laps now before those Renault pit stops, absolutely vital for them to build as big a cushion as possible for Alonso to negate the fact that Ferrari are carrying a little bit more fuel. At the moment it's 5 seconds. That needs to grow to give Alonso any kind of comfort zone here this afternoon.
Raikkonen will be pretty happy though. The trouble is he's losing a second and a half a lap, but he may be going maybe even 10 laps further than Alonso, or something of that magnitude. But the trouble is, if you're losing that kind of speed, then you can't do much with hanging on longer anyway. But Raikkonen will be massively satisfied with his start and his current track position with the fuel load he's carrying. Alonso now into the 117s. The Ferrari behind Fisichella looking a bit of a handful. You have to say Michael Schumacher was pushing extremely hard. He's done a 1:18.3, so he's lost another half second to Alonso. Alonso's car must be beautifully hooked up at the moment, James.
Definitely is, and you see Massa is shadowing Schumacher once again. He was very much on the pace at the Nürburgring last weekend, and Felipe Massa is stepping up here. He's doing a super job as teammate to Michael Schumacher, and all weekend he's been strong. His first flying lap on Friday, out at the same time as Michael Schumacher was doing his first flying lap of the weekend, was 0.6 faster than Schumacher's, albeit they were perhaps trying different tyre strategies, but nevertheless it shows that Massa is certainly on it this year, possibly his only year as a Ferrari driver, and we're riding on board with him now. Up the hill towards the right-hander at Kampsa, 145 miles an hour as they go up on the rumble strips then, down towards the braking zone, from 180 miles an hour down to 50 in just 2 seconds on the brakes. Huge pressure on the brake pedal, and then flicking through the complex, 80 miles an hour here. Look at the crowd in the grandstands. They've built an extra 10,000 seats here this year to accommodate the 130,000 who've packed in, and they're certainly enjoying what they've seen so far. This is lap 7, Alonso leading Fisichella by 5 seconds. Michael Schumacher drops another half a second to Alonso there. He's now 6.5 behind. Massa's 4th, Raikkonen is 5th, Barrichello 6th, and Jenson Button is in 7th.
И уже просто лишила Юдзи Иде суперлицензии. Что касается гоночных слухов, ну вот поскольку очень активно голландских средств массовой информации настаивали, что уже начиная с Гран-при Монако третий пилот Red Bull Роберт Дорнбосс поедет в качестве партнера Дэвида Кулхарда вместо Кристиана Клина, здесь наряду с официальными опровержениями от Дитера Матешица еще и такой смешной пресс-релиз выпустил Red Bull, называя в качестве возможных кандидатов на партнерство с Дэвидом Кулхардом на место Кристиана Клина в Монако, например, принца Альберта, во Франции генерала де Голля. Ну и вот в этом же ряду оказался на Гран-при Японии Юдзи Иде, которого назвали Юджин по-английски, Юджин Иде, еще и пометили, что если FIA разрешит. В общем, достаточно жесткий падок, конечно, F1 отнесся к новичку, которому не очень повезло. Многие, правда, встали на его защиту, но большинство были им очень сильно недовольны. Такое впечатление, что забыли собственные дебюты, да и даже не дебюты, потому что у самых опытных гонщиков рано или поздно бывали столкновения. После 6 кругов лучшее время по-прежнему у Фернандо Алонсо, причем постепенно он, естественно, по мере того, как баки пустеют, это время снижает. Вот на ваших экранах 1:17,416 секунды уже, то есть менее чем в 2 секундах, в секунде и 0,8 где-то от гоночного рекорда прошлогоднего Джанкарло Физикелло. Сам Физика сейчас уже в 5,5 секундах, и Михаэлю Шумахеру удается держать вот в районе вот этих 1,5 секунд, где-то с небольшим, секундой и 0,7 разрыв между ним и вторым пилотом Рено. Многие намекали, что Физикелло будет сдерживать искусственно Михаэля Шумахера, дабы Алонсо оторвался подальше, но вот пока этого не происходит. Конечно, темп Физика медленнее, чем у Алонсо, но он не настолько медленный, чтобы, например, Феррари в него уткнулась и Физикелло искусственно тормозил. Сам Шумахер, конечно, удерживается более-менее в темпе Физикелло, но не более того. Он не в состоянии пока приблизиться не то что на дистанцию атаки, но и даже в пределы 1 секунды. И вот сравнение между двумя партнерами по команде, пожалуйста, 4 на 5 круге, 0,8 на 6, вновь 4 на 7. Алонсо быстрее Физикеллы. О чем это может говорить? Конечно, в принципе, это могло бы говорить о разном количестве топлива. Вот сравнение, кстати, между Торо Россо и Red Bull, Витантонио Льюци, который по-прежнему здесь, ну, можно сказать, что и сдерживает, наверное, чуть менее 0,4 между двумя этими болидами Кристиана Клина. Сам Клин почти на 1,5 секунды опережает Дэвида Кулхарда. Вот прорыв Кулхарда с последнего ряда стартового поля увенчался, в общем, этим 17-м местом. Вильнёв вышел на 18-й, между двумя пилотами 6 секунд и 0,6. Следом за ними Монтани, который по-прежнему возглавляет 4 гонщиков Супер Агури и Мидленда, соответственно. И Монтани своего партнера по японской команде Такуму Сато опережает всего на 0,6 секунды. Альберс также приблизился к нему, он очень близок, в 0,4 секунды. Единственный, кто там подотстал, это Тьяго Монтейро, но мы помним, его развернуло, и если...
Fernando Alonso is leading the Spanish Grand Prix. Nothing has changed. But the only thing that has changed is that Michael Schumacher has now broken into the 1:17s. He's now 0.3 seconds slower a lap.
Something very strange with the balance. Car is wobbling in the corner. Okay, understood.
The reason for that almost certainly is they've had to rebuild their back end of that car overnight. because of the water leak that sent Coulthard off into the barriers yesterday. Parc fermé conditions, they're limited on the time and access they've really got to the car, and no warm-up, so they'll very much have to bolt it together and hope that, I mean, obviously they set them up to a very, very fine degree, but you're never quite sure how it's going to handle at a couple of 100 miles an hour. And Montoya, who's back in 11th place, ahead of us, we're riding with Mark Webber, and struggling to slow the McLaren down. Ted has some news from Honda.
Yeah, and there's a bit of a dilemma on the Honda pit wall, Martin, because Rubens Barrichello is now starting to hold Jensen up very badly. Jensen's a tenth quicker per lap. But what do they do? I mean, they can't tell Rubens to move over for Jensen. First of all, that's not allowed, and secondly, it would dent his confidence. But well, Jensen's going to have to overtake if they either have got any chance of getting Raikkonen.
Yeah, I think the teams would be able to. I know, strictly speaking, under the rules, I think you're absolutely right, Ted, but I think if Honda said, OK, right, Rubens, let Jensen through if they're on different strategies or slightly different fuel loads, but I agree with you. I think Button would be faster than he is if he was able to clear Rubens at this time, and they're falling away quite dramatically from the back of Raikkonen, and they're 22 seconds behind the leaders. So Honda, as you say, with a dilemma, and they'll have a code or they'll have a system, but I'm sure Rubens won't quite see it that way, mind you.
They definitely have a code, something along the lines of, Rubens, you're holding Jensen up. And just leave it up to him and his conscience as to what he actually does about it. How badly is he holding him up? Well, they're lapping in the 19.2s, 1 minute 19.2. Whereas Raikkonen is scampering away in the 1 minute 18.6s, and all four cars in front, the two Renaults and the two Ferraris, are all solidly in the mid 1 minute 17 range. So they're 2 seconds a lap slower than the Renaults and the Ferraris are the Hondas, and that is why Jensen Button needs to get in front of Rubens Barrichello. It looks to me as though Jarno Trulli is possibly holding Ralf Schumacher up as well in an all-Toyota situation, and that's one of the Super Aguris getting a little bit out of shape. The back of the field, I think it's probably Sato, yeah, because he was behind Montagny on the track, and that's let the two Midlands go through. So they're having a good scrap at the back. The Super Aguris and the Midlands had a chat with the technical director of Super Aguri, Mark Preston, over the course of the weekend. Their new car is due to come out at the French Grand Prix in Magny-Cours in July. It features quite a few new parts from Honda, not as many as they were hoping for. The support from Honda hasn't been quite as significant as perhaps was originally promised, but nevertheless, he's hoping that the new car will get them well ahead of the Midlands and challenging the Toro Rosso. So time will tell, but we'll look forward to seeing that car at the French Grand Prix as Sato pits following that spin.
His tyres are probably like 50-pence pieces if he gave it a boot full of brake to slow the car down and avoid it hitting the wall. So Sato then, unscheduled stop, but he's very much fighting at the back. I still think they've done a great job in that team from a standing start in the winter to get out to the Grand Prix season and not look too shabby on it. Yeah,
you say unscheduled stop, and obviously it does look as though it came straight off the back of that spin, but his teammate is in for fuel and tyres. They've got a problem with the car, I think, though. There's heavy symbolism going on at the back. The car will go no further. Montagny is being given the news. So we've lost one of the Super Aguris from the looks of things. Maybe that wasn't their scheduled stop after all. Massa now the fastest man on the racetrack. He set the fastest first sector. Alonso responding though at the front. He set the fastest middle sector. Still trying to pull away. Currently the margin between Alonso and Michael Schumacher is 9.3 seconds, and that is more than I think most people were expecting. Clearly the Michelins are performing well at the moment with the track in the condition that it's in. There seemed to be very little to choose between them during the free practice sessions. Possibly a slight edge towards Bridgestone, but you have to say, Martin, both tyre companies, Bridgestone and Michelin, have done an outstanding job this year, haven't they? The performance is absolutely staggering. They can go for 20 laps, hardly losing any tyre performance at all. It is incredible. I mean, it's such a challenge with the grooves in the tyres and the loads that are going through the cars, the downforce and the cornering loads. Just astonishing how they've made them so durable and so predictable in many respects. I mean, the tyre's sort of a living thing with the rubber that's on it, but they're really getting it off to a fine art. But we're down to one tyre supplier next year, it seems, and that'll be Bridgestone. And all of the teams out there at the moment who are on Bridgestone are going to have such an advantage, and that doesn't include Renault and McLaren. Alonso's lead was 8.1 seconds then over his teammate as he passed the line last time around. The Ferraris are struggling, surprisingly, to hang on.
секунды. Отставание от Альберса компенсировал очень и очень быстро. Тьяго всего в 0,6 позади Альберса. Тот, в свою очередь, в 11 секундах позади Жака Вильнёва. Тот по-прежнему 6,5 проигрывает Дэвиду Кулхарду. Кулхард приблизиться к Клину не может. 1,7. Клин не ослабляет хватки на Витантонио Льюци. 0,6 секунды в борьбе за 15 место. Сам Льюци Росбергу проигрывает 4 секунды. Росберг по-прежнему буквально преследует Скотта Спида. Там менее секунды, но пока атака его не увенчалась успехом. Фернандо Алонсо сейчас 300 км в час скорость. Ну, вчера 314 максимальная скорость была у Фелипе Массы и чуть медленнее 311 у Михаэля Шумахера. Что касается Фернандо, разом 0,2 снимает он со своего результата и уже 1,17 ровно. Лучшее время в этой гонке. Если говорить о вот этой паре Росберг-Спид, то они в 45 секундах уже позади Фернандо Алонсо. И Спид проигрывает другому Вильямсу Марка Вебера менее 3 секунд, 2,9. Вебер, в свою очередь, в секунде от Монтои. Монтоя не может преследовать Ника Хайтфельда. Там 2 секунды и 9 по-прежнему. Сам Хайтфельд чуть-чуть приблизился на последних кругах. Правда, еще достаточно далеко, в 4,5 секундах, но все же чуть-чуть приблизился к вот этой схватке двух Тойот, которую мы часто наблюдаем глазами Ярна Трулли. Если бы, естественно, у него глаза были расположены вот в этом месте. Но, скажем так, глазами болида Ярна Трулли. Вот этой Toyota TF106. Экземпляр Б пока так и не поступил. Обещают, что в Монако через 2 недели команда все-таки выставит новую версию, о которой Майк Гаскойн еще в межсезонье говорил. Интересно, что настолько рано TF106 было представлено на тестовых трассах, что уже в момент ее презентации было объявлено, что где-то как раз в районе Гран-при Монако последует, может быть, Toyota TF106B. Она уже была протестирована еще до Нюрбургринга, но там очень плотный график гонок у нас на прошлой неделе Гран-при Европы, на этой Гран-при Испании. И в итоге и Трулли, и Ральфу Шумахеру приходится ждать появления вот этой новой машины. Теперь, что касается их собственного отрыва, он уже 35 секунд, при том, что Трулли, мы видим, замыкает очковую зону. И сам он проигрывает Баттону почти 5 секунд и 0,7. Баттон на хвосте у Баррикелло. Гоночный темп абсолютно одинаковый. И вот здесь, посмотрите, пожалуйста, уже в круге не только совершившие пит-стоп болиды Супер Агури в настоящий момент, но и оба Мидланда, которые по-прежнему идут очень плотно. Альверс и Монтейро. И оба сейчас пропускают на круг уже лидера этой гонки Фернандо Алонсо. 1,17 и 48 секунды.
Copy, I'll fix it for the next set. Keep pushing now. We are losing in the high-speed corners. We are losing in the high-speed corners, Ralph.
Значит, Ярно Трулли сейчас сказал, что
Lap 15 of the Spanish Grand Prix, and there's Ferrari, who look like they're getting ready for a pit stop. Michael Schumacher is 11 seconds behind race leader Fernando Alonso. Felipe Massa is behind him. What's the story, Ted? Do you think they're going to bring Schumacher in early?
Yeah, well, it certainly looks like that, although we thought, I mean, all the paddock rumours said it was going to be 16, lap 16, 17, 18 like this, but, well, it all looked very planned from where I was. I tell you, Chris Dyer, Michael's engineer, oh, that's interesting. No, are they telling him to go back in? Yes, they are. A bit of mind games here from Ferrari. Jean Todt has just turned round and told the Ferrari guys to go back into the pits. Interesting.
Well, maybe there was a possible problem. Maybe they were just on standby in case one of the drivers wanted to come in. One of the theories doing the rounds in the paddock was that if Schumacher were being held up by Fisichella, Ferrari might bring Schumacher in early. And the two Toyotas get very, very close to each other, and Ralf Schumacher goes off the road there. And look at his front wing.
Yeah,
it's broken.
The two Toyotas were line astern down the pit straight, and obviously had a nibble on the way into the braking zone for turn one, and is connected with the back of his teammate. And well, that's the trouble. We've got a lot of cars out there, and teams rather, running line astern, as you tend to get here as the sort of Noah's Ark of car performance. They tend to go 2 by 2. Alonso's just popped it into the 16s as we watch Ralf Schumacher was desperately trying to get out of it. He's committed himself to the overtake. It wasn't really even an overtake, Ralph. It was from a long way back. It wasn't a genuine opportunity, and I don't think the team will be too impressed with that.
So you lay that one squarely at Ralph's door?
Yep.
Well, we heard a radio message to Jarno Trulli. He was saying that the back of his car is feeling a little bit light, and the team was saying, well, not to worry, we'll fix it at the first pit stop. So watch out for adjustments to Trulli's car. Hopefully it's not too much lighter at the back with bits missing from it, but it didn't see too much damage to Trulli's car. Plenty to Ralf Schumacher's though, And there is no greater sin in Formula One than colliding with your teammate and damaging each other's race.
Well, we haven't seen the Ferrari pace yet. They need to be going a lot further than Renault, and Renault are getting ready to come in. So no Ferrari mechanics down there. Toyota mechanics out, obviously waiting for Ralf Schumacher to make his way round. Who's going to pit first? It's a Fernando Alonso from the lead. Now, how far can Ferrari go, and how fast can they be in this crucial period?
So he had established a 12.8 second lead over Michael Schumacher in his opening stint of this Grand Prix, and he had 10 seconds margin over Fisichella, who goes through now to take the lead of this Grand Prix. It's a reasonable stop by Renault, not particularly quick, 8.5 seconds stationary time. I expect that he's probably taken on fuel to get himself to around about lap 42 or 43. Those graphics tend to not work based on nozzle time, they work based on stationary time, but I think he's going about 42 or 43. Slight delay then, obviously somewhere in the pit stop, but he's back out on track. And remember that, Michael Schumacher had that 12-second margin behind him, and that's going to be very, very important later on in the Grand Prix.
Yeah, and what's important now, we'll watch his outlap and his overall pace, see if Michael can do anything about that gap. But the right front looked a little bit sticky coming off, didn't it? I think that's why the pit stop was longer than they ideally would have wanted, so it wasn't perfect. Alonso first to blink then, and now we're going to find out what the true pace of the Ferrari is, as Massa is just about getting run into by the MF1, and Fisichella then obviously in soon too.
So they had virtually the same fuel load yesterday in qualifying when they did those times. Fisichella just a fraction slower than his teammate, just 6/100ths of a second slower. So a better lap then by Fisichella effectively than Alonso, because you need 3 kilos of fuel to do a lap. So that was a decent lap by Fisichella when you consider it. And now the Ferraris are running in clear air. Michael Schumacher is leading this race. Felipe Massa is second. And Ross Brawn, the chief strategist for Ferrari, as we look at one of the McLarens, getting very leery indeed. That's Juan Pablo Montoya, and Mark Webber nips past him. So Webber nicks 10th place from Montoya, and he's beached.
I've been beached up on that curb back in '92. You're rocking on the curb. He's out of the car, and I tell you what, that's a difficult position to recover a car from. I wondered if they'll bring the safety car out for that, because that's a very crucial position, and they'll not be sending marshals into that anytime soon. They can cover it under waved yellow flags, but well, Montoya having a mare of a season, isn't he? And that car's been trying to get away from him all day, basically, hasn't it? Every time we've seen him, it looks like he's been having a problem keeping it on the road. No signs of any safety car on standby at the moment. But Montoya then, he was in P12, he's out of the Grand Prix. And Ferrari then coming in very soon after Michael's gone past, so it must be Massa.
So what's going on here is that Ross Brawn, the Ferrari chief strategist, has seen how much fuel went into Alonso's car. He will make a calculation based on what he thinks Schumacher needs to do later in the race to give him more fuel, perhaps 3, 4, 5 laps more, and that may make the difference a bit later on. What he's waiting for now, he's bringing Massa in first. What he's waiting for now probably is to see if they get a safety car, because a pit stop under a safety car would really help Michael Schumacher, because obviously all the other cars are travelling much slower at the time when he takes time out effectively to go into the pit. So if we get a safety car, that's Christmas, Easter and birthday all rolled into one for Michael Schumacher. Massa's stop was good, more efficient than Renault's, 2.5 seconds quicker. He's back out on track.
Yeah, the problem for Massa is, though, between him and Fisichella are a couple of Toyotas, or a couple of Hondas actually, I think they were, steaming down into turn 1. Michael Schumacher did a 1:17.3 on that lap, which doesn't match the 16s that Alonso was doing. Alonso's done a 1:18.2 with his fuel load, so Michael's pulling about a second a lap out of him at the moment. He needs to go 8 laps further if he's going to gain track position, gain the lead. And well, that's a lot to ask. I don't think Michael's quite got that speed.
Not for the first round of pit stops. We've now got marshals in that very, very dangerous place then down at turn 2, and it looks like they're going to get away with this without a safety car. It's a tight call, isn't it? Some race directors might have thrown a safety car there, others might not. A safety car would have given a very, very big helping hand to Schumacher, but not today from the looks of things.
Well, the problem is, as we saw exactly there yesterday, that's where Coulthard lost his water and went flying off the racetrack. That's where he started his accident down there between turns 2 and 3. So, you know, you've got, yes, the drivers have to obey the flags. They're all a little bit naughty. They just lift momentarily in the zone and floor it everywhere else. But you don't know what else can go wrong.
Let's enjoy this with Michael then. Ferrari engine working hard, screaming up the hill. These are important laps for Michael Schumacher, but he's not going to get the job done at the first pit stop. It's the second pit stop, around the early lap 42, 43, that kind of time when Alonso's likely to come in. Schumacher likely to come in a bit later, although we haven't yet seen how much fuel Ross Brawn has in mind for him for the middle stint, but that's where the race is going to turn for sure.
Alonso navigating the back markers too, which has cost him a little bit of time, but it was a 1 minute 17.8 for Michael and 1 minute 18.1 for the freshly fueled Alonso. So that's a fast time for an early part of a stint.
It is. Schumacher obviously realised he wasn't quite quick enough on that lap. He has speeded up to a 17.1, which is more like it. But Alonso's doing a fantastic job with a heavy fuel load here. And these two are absolutely flat chat with very different fuel loads at very different stages. Alonso's not happy at all. We've got waved yellow flags down at turn 2. Alonso's gone past the back marker in turn 1. Waved yellow flags before turn 1 is what we're being told by race control.
Yeah, but the other car lifted. I think it'd be unfair to penalise him there because the other car had been blue flagged and had to lift, had to yield to the leader. So you got two clashing directives really there, and well, touch marginal though.
Touch marginal, but definitely under consideration, I would think, by Tony Scott Andrews, the new chief steward who travels to every Grand Prix. The idea being to try and provide consistency in the decisions. It's like football. The refereeing decisions can count for an awful lot. Same in Formula One, and we've seen World Championships decided on it in the past. If you pass a car under waved yellow flags, then you get a drive-through penalty. Those are the rules in Formula One. Back markers, backing off down the straight when you're the leader. Different story.
Michael made a bit of a mistake in the middle part of the lap he's just finished, otherwise it would have been extremely fast. And McLaren getting ready then to bring in Raikkonen. Montoya's already out of the Grand Prix, spun and beached in turn 3. And somehow or other, through that traffic, Alonso, with damage limitation, kept the deficit just to 0.4 of a second. He's doing okay at the moment. I don't think Michael's quite fast enough to get the lead. That's at this stop. There's another one to come yet.
So Schumacher's gone a lot longer on the fuel than everybody expected. This is lap 23. Raikkonen's gone a couple of laps less far on the fuel than people expected. So that lap yesterday in qualifying by Michael Schumacher for third on the grid was awesome. If you consider that he's still out on track now, a full 5 laps later than Alonso, and the difference in their qualifying times was just 2.5 of a second. So that was a really fabulous qualifying performance by Michael Schumacher. We've already seen Massa pitting. This must be for Michael Schumacher. This is lap 23.
So Michael 22 seconds ahead of Fisichella, but only 13 ahead of Alonso. He might, just might, get out in front of Fisichella. I don't think so though, but it depends just how long they stop him. I don't think he'll quite make it out in front of Fizzy.
Well, we can see Fizzy out of our window up in the complex. Coming down now towards the start-finish line. Schumacher going down with its speed reduced down the pit lane.
It's going to be touch and go, isn't it?
It certainly is. There's Schumacher on the left, there's Fisichella on the right. He's got him. That's crucial, absolutely crucial to his race. Fisichella has to attack him. Schumacher's just come straight out of the pits with heavy fuel load, new tyres. Fisichella isn't going to be able to do anything about him. So, advantage Ferrari in that one. Now what can they do? Can they get after Alonso?
So why has Fisichella allowed that to happen? The thing is, from when the lights go out to when the flag drops, it's the race, of course. It's every single second counts. And the in-lap, the time you're in the pits, the out-lap, of course, it's just the same as a hot lap. And somehow or other, Fisichella has not been very fast through those crucial phases. and it's released Michael Schumacher.
That crucial lap, the end of which you saw Schumacher come out of the pits in front of Fisichella. Fisichella was 0.4 of a second slower than teammate Alonso, and consider that they pitted just a lap apart. They're carrying the same fuel load, they're both on the same tyre, but those critical tenths of a second are what's handed second place and the advantage to Michael Schumacher. And that is not at all the news that Alonso will want to hear on his radio. Well, we saw Juan Pablo Montoya spinning a few minutes ago. He's now with Louise Goodman.
Juan Pablo, he's just actually started doing another interview, but I'll shove my microphone in and see what we can get from him.
With traction control, and when I went to shift, the car just went, I don't know, normally through there, you're in traction control and you lean on the traction control, and for some reason it just went. And then the engine just stopped as well. That is kind of weird, but I don't know what happened.
I guess it started already in qualifying. What's going on with the team at the moment? It's going more backwards than forwards.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to understand what's going on. My start was dreadful again. When it was really slow. It just off the line. I lost 3-4 places, and I made a couple of places through turn one, but it just makes your life even harder. It's one week you get a good start, the next week you get a bad start, but we're just trying to understand what's going on and try to improve the car. We run some fuel here that we never ran here before. The car was very heavy, and I think the way it was looking, we were going to score some good points today, but it's a bit of a shame.
Well, Juan Pablo very much laying the blame in the door of the car, the electronics on the car there. Ron Dennis said just a couple of hours ago that he's making his driver strategy and his strategy in place. He's making his decisions in the next 3 or 4 weeks as to how they're going to go forward. So Montoya very much under pressure there at McLaren, and we're all convinced that Raikkonen is going and has already committed to go to Ferrari next year.
Well, it's very interesting, isn't it? Because the president of Renault Sport, Alain Dassas, is here, and I had a little chat with him a couple of hours before this race. And he told me that they were going to chase a big name driver. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute. Jenson Button's pitting, and Ted Kravitz is down there.
And that's a very good stop, and he's got a great chance of overtaking Rubens Barrichello now, because he managed to do, as we see Fisichella go wide, a fantastically quick lap, a 1:17 Jenson. So has he passed Barrichello?
Well, that's the big question. Fisichella off the road then. Let's have a look if we can see what happened up at the Campsa corner, Martin.
What on earth's going on with Fisichella? Has he got a problem in the car? Because the thing looks glued to the racetrack, and somehow he's made an error at, is that Campsa?
No, it's turn 3, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a bit earlier on in the lap. So Fisichella, the side pods will be full of gravel. The first time you hit the brakes, the gravel shoots out all over your track, all over where you need to slow the car down, so you have to be very careful when you've scampered through the gravel trap as far as he just has. But now then, Alonso is by himself out front. Surely Fisichella's error allowed Massa to get through. We'll have to find out in a moment. Maybe Massa didn't quite make it through, actually.
Yeah, they were 4 seconds apart. Schumacher going past his brother Ralph, who's obviously come in to replace that damaged nose cone. Big question was, did Jenson Button leapfrog Rubens Barrichello? Remember, in the opening stint, Barrichello was holding his teammate up. Clearly the Honda team didn't tell Barrichello to do anything about it. Barrichello, has he been jumped? Raikkonen goes through in 5th place. Trulli's 6th. Heidfeld is 7th, and neither Trulli nor Heidfeld have pitted yet. Button is 8th, Webber is 9th, and Barrichello is 10th. So Jenson Button is 3.5 seconds in front of his teammate, and that shows you how much quicker he potentially was in the opening stint. So Jenson's free of Rubens. Into the pits comes Scott Speed. He was running a very solid 13th place, well ahead of teammate Liuzzi and ahead of both of the Red Bull cars. So a terrific opening to the Grand Prix for Speed. Only American in Formula One. He'll be looking forward to Indianapolis in July, won't he? And so I'm sure will they be looking forward to seeing him racing. This is a good outing here for Speed.
Yeah, he's been driving very well. They're consistently fast. The fastest of the 4. Red Bull, Toro Rosso, they effectively operate as one team. And he is back out onto the racetrack. So can Button now do something about his afternoon? Now he's been really... The team, of course, can always just put a bit of extra fuel in one team car than the other if they wanted to deliberately, almost, I'm not saying they did, but deliberately get Button in front of Barrichello, and they can control that in the pit stops too.
Jenson Button is racing really well. He's going to be in front of Trulli and Heidfeld when they make their pit stops. He's not quite fast enough to get onto the tails of Kimi Raikkonen, who's 5th. So Button's racing for 6th place here really this afternoon, unless any of the front runners have any problems or setbacks. There's no one really around. Raikkonen's a bit quicker, he's on his own, not as fast as the Ferraris or the Renaults. Jarno Trulli pits then from 8th place, and Jensen's kind of floating around in a sort of no man's land, ahead of the Toyotas, behind the McLarens.
Yeah, 40 seconds off the lead. The lead is now 10 seconds, Alonso over Michael Schumacher. And last time around, they were identical times in the low 1:17s. And they're pretty nip and tuck in the first sector. Michael's a 10th quicker, second sector a 10th slower. Alonso goes through in a 1:17.7. The Ferrari will pop up over the top of the hill there in the background. And he's done a 1:17.7 too. So nothing between them at the moment, except Alonso has eked out a 10-second advantage. And quite clearly, they're on the same strategy, albeit the Ferrari going a bit further each time.
Yeah, definitely. Michael Schumacher went 6 laps further in the first stint. He was stationary for 7.7 seconds. The Renault was stationary for 8.5, but we saw a little delay on the front wheel. So in terms of the amount of fuel that went into those two cars, it's probably pretty similar. The difference is that, as Martin said, one car, the Ferrari, is going 6 laps further. So the game now for Schumacher then, in the next 10 or 15 laps, is to get as close as he can onto the back of Alonso, and then in those 6 laps to use whatever speed he has to try and leapfrog him at the time of his own second stop. It's a tricky place to overtake here, as Ralf Schumacher just found out a moment ago with Jarno Trulli. In the GP2 race this morning, there was a lot of cars very close together. They simply couldn't overtake each other, and that's GP2. Why is it so hard to overtake around this track?
Because you've got such fast corners leading onto the straight, so you're in the turbulent. You're guaranteed to be 6/10, 7/10 down before you ever get up and running on the straight, unfortunately. And the layout's great for the drivers, but it's not great for overtaking. As you say, normally in GP2 they're overtaking each other a couple of times per lap and having a whale of a time. Alonso's lead gains a 10th of a second that time around. Renault will be disappointed because they need Fisichella today to be taking points off Michael Schumacher. It does seem they've got the upper hand, and this fearsome pace of Ferrari that we heard about in the paddock. All I ever saw Michael doing was fighting the car on the older tyres, but still pretty fast with it. But it strikes me Alonso does have the slightly better car, but they needed Fizzy to take maximum points away from Michael Schumacher, because that Ferrari is on the rampage generally. It's such a fast car in any conditions, any kind of racetrack.
Heidfeld pits from 7th place. So Michael Schumacher has managed to claw back 2 seconds from the lead that Alonso had in the first stint. He was 12.5 seconds ahead of him before Alonso's first stop. Now the gap is just 10.5, and there isn't another car between the two of them. If Schumacher's got 6 or 7 laps longer, at 1.5 seconds a lap, that would be enough to give him the lead. It's going to be very tense indeed as we approach the halfway stage.
Место, вернее, задолго до места, где Ральф Шумахер столкнулся с Ярно Трулли. Может быть, сильный ветер отнес их туда. Может быть, кто-то из пилотов потерял часть своего оперения аэродинамического. И, в общем, достаточно опасно, потому что это может быть чревато медленным проколом. Острые куски карбона, и не раз за время последних сезонов мы с вами уже наблюдали такие ситуации, которые иногда даже, как в случае вот Шумахера и Häkkинена на Сузуки, вы помните, могли решить судьбу чемпионского титула, вплоть до этого. Чуть-чуть сократился после 30-го круга разрыв сейчас между двумя лидерами, между Алонсо и Шумахером, 9 секунд и 6 десятых, и весь вопрос в количестве пит-стопов, соответственно, оставшихся у Феррари и Рено. Ну, в случае с Михаэлем Шумахером мы рискнем предположить, что будет одна единственная заправка. В случае с Фернандо Алонсо, возможно, 2. Но если Алонсо действительно слишком рано будет вынужден ехать на свой второй пит-стоп, то здесь, и если разрыва не будет хватать между ним и Михаэлем Шумахером, а сейчас разрыв стабилизировался, сейчас Алонсо не едет быстрее Михаэля, и в этом, наверное, главная проблема для Пэта Симмонса. В отличие от первых кругов гонки, на втором комплекте Михаэль держит темпо Фернандо Алонсо, разрыв не растет. Если это будет продолжаться и дальше, то, может быть, Рено сможет сменить свою тактику и залить тогда Фернандо Алонсо полные баки. Шумахер для того, чтобы он оставался на трассе до самого конца. Но в Формуле-1 вообще инженеры как-то не любят полные баки. Одно дело на старте, а по ходу дистанции, вот вы помните, на Нюрнберге 60 кругов, да, на 33-м первый раз останавливается Нико Росберг, и тем не менее ему заливают совсем чуть-чуть, чтобы он ехал 2 спринта вместо одного отрезка по 27 кругов. Там даже если бы он был медленнее поначалу, он в любом случае, я думаю, смог бы приехать пятым. Так в итоге финишировал 7-м, и то из-за сходов Ральфа Шумахера и Хуана Пабло Монтойи на последних кругах. Так, в принципе, в лучшем случае был бы на 8-м месте Нико Росберг. Вот это не от Макларена на самом деле оторвался кусок, так как вам показалось, а просто по тому же самому месту проехал сейчас Кими Райконен. Достаточно опасная ситуация для Макларена, опасная вдвойне, учитывая, что у Рона Денниса и Норберта Хауга, собственно говоря, одна лишь серебряная стрела осталась сейчас, которая борется за Гран-при Испании, поскольку вторая уже сошла с дистанции. Вы помните разворот Хуана Пабло Монтойи, беспомощно зависший на бордюре Макларен Мерседес, и, соответственно, сход с дистанции. Вот как медленно здесь сейчас Ральф Шумахер ехал, прямо опять же на траектории. Вот как раз тот самый эпизод, о котором мы говорили между Альберсом и Сато вчера, он повторяется сейчас. У Ральфа Шумахера явно проблемы с машиной, и он пытается уйти с траектории каким-то образом, чтобы не помешать другим гонщикам. И вот в случае с Райконеном это едва не закончилось опасно. Дженсен Баттон, который все-таки за счет пит-стопа смог опередить Рубенса Баррикелло. Вы помните, у своего партнера по Хонде он сидел буквально на антикрыле на протяжении. Вот только сейчас Баррикелло, в свою очередь, мы видели, обогнал Ральфа.
Lap 33 of the 66th lap Spanish Grand Prix from Barcelona. We're about 25 minutes drive to the northeast of the wonderful city of Barcelona, which has really been basking in a festival of motorsport this weekend. Fernando Alonso, the local hero, is leading this Grand Prix, but Michael Schumacher, the crowd's arch enemy, is just 10 seconds behind him, and it's going to be a very tense tactical battle between the strategists and a very tense driving battle between two men at the very top of their game, Alonso and Michael Schumacher, as to who comes out on top here. We saw Ralf Schumacher coasting in, Martin. Looks like he tangled earlier on with teammate Trulli, had to take a new nose cone. He's now taken to the pits. That car doesn't look terribly well.
No, a little bit of debris on the track, something flicking either from underneath the McLaren or off the McLaren. Bit of a reverse up there, and don't know what that was, a bit of mirror or something like that. But yes, it looks like Ralf Schumacher could well be our third retirement. Montoya spun out, electrical problems, he said, with traction control disappearing on him right there where Alonso is. And Montagny also out, and it seems as if Ralf Schumacher could be coasting into retirement. There he is, has gone straight into the garage.
So Alonso leading this race by 10.5 seconds from Michael Schumacher. He lost a little ground with some traffic, but it seems that Michael Schumacher has now encountered the same traffic. It's Christian Klien in the Red Bull Racing who jumped Scott Speed at the first round of pit stops. He took 13th place off Speed, who's down now to 14th, with teammate Liuzzi 10.5 seconds behind him in 15th. Then David Coulthard on his 200th Grand Prix start is behind them as well in 16th place. So a bit of a weekend to forget, unfortunately, for David, who had a problem yesterday in qualifying, where a water pipe burst, spilling water on his rear tyres on his qualifying lap and putting him into the gravel trap. So he had to start from the back of the grid, which is a great shame for him. Still then, only 1 point scoring finish in 2006 for David Coulthard. Up towards the front, though, it's two Renaults. It's Renault Alonso, Ferrari Michael Schumacher, Renault Fisichella, Ferrari Felipe Massa. Then 16 seconds behind them is Kimi Raikkonen, who's in a very lonely race. Jenson Button's trying to come across to catch up to Raikkonen. He's 5 seconds behind him at the moment. And I wouldn't bet against Jenson closing down Raikkonen by the end of this Grand Prix. Certainly the early part of the race, Button was held up by teammate Barrichello, who is now 5 seconds behind Jenson in 7th place. And then all on his own is Nick Heidfeld in 8th place, looking for the last points-paying position. And that will be disputed, I think, between him, Jarno Trulli and Mark Webber, who are all within 3 or 4 seconds of each other.
Vizzy's beginning to catch Michael Schumacher to try to undo the damage at the last pit stop. Both Renaults once again in this stage of the stint quite a bit faster than the Ferraris. So we've got some closing gaps, not too much nose-to-tail stuff at the moment. And except for Rosberg and Villeneuve in 11th and 12th. Obviously Villeneuve started absolutely last and is going to one stop this afternoon. He hasn't been in the pits at all yet, and we're over half distance. So Villeneuve creeping his way up the leaderboard. he might just steal a point or two. But Kimi Raikkonen then, 40 seconds off the lead, P5, and Button just about catching him at the moment.
Well, we were riding on board there with Kimi Raikkonen, and I was just saying before the Honda pit stops that Alain Dassas, the president of Renault Sport, was saying today they have signed up, as Ted Kravitz was telling us, through to 2012, putting an end to any doubts about Renault's long-term commitment, as Michael Schumacher sized past the Red Bull of Christian Klien. And that's important, Dassas was saying, because they've been sending out mixed signals to drivers. They're desperately trying to find a man to replace Fernando Alonso, but the top drivers they talk to, like Michael Schumacher, like Kimi Raikkonen, are all saying, yes, but how long are you actually going to be in Formula One? So now that they've signed up and they are committed to 2012, Dassas believes they can go out and get after one of the big names. He said Renault will do whatever is necessary to get a top driver to replace Alonso, but I fear they may have left it too late to get Raikkonen's signature, because, as you say, everybody in the paddock is convinced he's on his way to Ferrari.
Well, if he means next year, I wonder who that can be. I mean, Fisichella Kovalainen looks like the obvious pairing for Renault, doesn't it? But obviously Kovalainen looks a bit special, but it's got a lot to learn yet, and Fizzy hasn't. Looked like he's going to threaten a world championship, even though he's won a few races. Meanwhile, though, Alonso taking 3/4 second a lap out of Michael Schumacher now, taking chunks out of him as he's back down into the low 17s. Michael has responded, but the gap, 12.4 seconds, as Ted has further news.
Yeah, and I've been down to Renault, and just prior to those laps from Fernando Alonso, they weren't sure whether he was going to be particularly safe. They've been telling Fernando to push so hard out there, telling him to put in the laps now, and I tell you, he's been doing the job 8/10 quicker than Michael up until the time when Michael just responded. But on Fisichella, they say, well, he hasn't got any problems with the car, he's just not as quick as Michael Schumacher.
This is a perfect illustration of Alonso. Look at the relentlessness, look at the consistency of those lap times. 17.2, 17.2, 17.3. That's what he's been doing, and that is one of the things that makes him so very special. He can do that for lap after lap after lap, and the engineers just sit in the garage in awe of his strength, and he is going to take some replacing within this Renault team, no doubt about that. He leads this race then by 12.5 seconds. He's more than halfway towards what would be an enormously emotional home victory in front of 130,000 people. Fisichella is third, having gone off the road earlier on and been leapfrogged in the pit stops by Michael Schumacher. He's now closing him down very slowly, but only very slowly. Massa's behind him in fourth, Raikkonen fifth, and Jenson Button looking solid in sixth.
Но запас над Райкконеном просто феноменальный. У Филиппе 16,5 секунд. Баттон, несмотря на все усилия, не приближается. Там 5,5 секунд, те же 5,5 секунд между двумя Хондами. По чуть-чуть отстает буквально Ник Хайтфельд. А вот там в 20 секундах позади Баррикелло замыкает очковую зону. А вот Ярно Трулли смог чуть-чуть повысить свой темп. Только что очередной свой лучший круг, 1:18,5. Это чуть-чуть быстрее, чем у Ника Хайтфельда. В итоге 2 секунды и 4 остались между BMW и Toyota в борьбе за 8-е место. Все остальные гонщики уже в одном круге позади Фернандо Алонсо. На 10-й позиции Марк Вебер, в 3,5 секундах позади Ярно Трулли. На 5 секунд он опережает Жака Вильнёва, который по-прежнему так и не побывал ни разу в боксах. Вильнёв на секунду опережает Росберга. Там Ника постепенно подбирается к BMW. Два Вильямса готовы к тому, чтобы взять Жака Вильнёва в клещи в своеобразные. И следом за ними вот все гонщики Редбула и Торо Росса. Открывает этот отряд в 8 секундах позади Росберга Кристиан Клин. На 5 секунд он опережает Скотта Спида. Тот за счет дозаправок вот опередил, мы видим, и Кулхарда, и Льюци. Спид опережает Льюца на 7 секунд. Между Льюци и Кулхардом секунда и 0,8. И 38 секунд им уступает Тиаго Монтейро. Зато Монтейро на 47 секунд теперь вот опережает Альберса. У Альберса этот пит-стоп был слишком длинным из-за, может быть, каких-то работ над машиной. Хотя, может быть, она и заглохла. Так или иначе, но Альберс уже в 2 кругах. Точно так же, как и Такума Сато. И Сато, который уже провел 2 пит-стопа, правда, в отличие от Альберса. Может быть, на тактике 3 дозаправок. Мы помним, и Сато, и Монтани очень рано останавливались первый раз на 11-м круге, причем оба синхронно, из-за чего было некоторое замешательство с комплектами резины для Франко Монтани. Так или иначе, но Монтани сошел с дистанции. Сато пока на 19-м месте замыкает пелотон и уступает 19 секунд Кристиану Альберсу. Мы же с вами прерываемся на рекламную паузу, друзья.
27 laps to go in the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona. And how much would a home victory mean to Fernando Alonso? I'll tell you how much. He's just done a 1 minute 16.7, the fastest lap by anybody so far this during this Grand Prix. He's opened up the gap to Michael Schumacher to 13.5 seconds, and he encountered traffic, 2 cars on that lap en route to setting that time. He had to pass Montero and Heidfeld as well, so he is absolutely flying. He's lapped everybody up to 7th place. Rubens Barrichello, as you can see from that graphic there, he's going to come up to Barrichello and Button fairly soon, and here he is for new tyres and fuel with this is lap 40.
And we're told from the F1 ITV pit grid they are brand spanking new tyres go on. The right front is off, no problem at all this time around. 4 hands are up, 4 wheels are on, just putting the exact amount of fuel in they need to get this car over the line.
White line, remember the white line, Fernando.
He did the same thing with just a little bit of breathe, a bit of fresh air through the visor. And that's the white line they're talking about. Do not cross that white line, otherwise you'll get a drive-through penalty. And fed into a little bit of traffic, but he's just behind Fisichella. Look, that's how good the pit stop was. He's now just behind his teammate, and presumably Fisichella will pit at the end of this lap.
And that is a perfect illustration of how superior Alonso is to Fisichella, because he is basically a pit stop ahead of him. That's how close they are on the racetrack in the same car, and he's been able to do the difference. Now, there is Felipe Massa. So leading this race now is Michael Schumacher. Second is Giancarlo Fisichella. Third is Alonso, and fourth is Felipe Massa. But Schumacher, Fisichella and Massa all have to make their second stops, and the Ferraris will not be coming in for another 6 or 7 laps. This is the moment for Schumacher to do the damage now.
Alonso must have fed in just in front of Massa then as well, crucially, so Massa can't interfere with his pace. We saw Alonso just behind Fisichella. Fisichella pits. Massa must be literally just behind, and Ted is down there waiting for him.
Yeah, and Fernando Alonso would have been concerned about that. They're paranoid that Michael's going to pass them, Renault. I think they've got this one in the bag. He would have been concerned that he was behind Fisichella, but no problems, because as you say, Fisichella now in the pits. Another very clean stop so far from the Renault boys. 60 kilos of fuel will see this guy through to the end of the race. That's a good stop for Fisi.
Okay, so what does Michael Schumacher need? He needs a 1.5 seconds a lap for the next 6 or 7 laps, depending if that's how far he can go. We think it's 6. Flavio Briatore encouraging his troops as Fisichella rejoins behind Kimi Räikkönen. So Räikkönen has yet to make his second stop, but he cuts through in front of Fisichella. He was 20 seconds behind him, though, before the round of pit stop, so he's not racing really with Fisichella this afternoon. It's just the way it's worked out with the stops. Barrichello pits from 7th place.
The reason why Flavio on the pit wall was giving it the victory salute there in terms of this phase of the race is because all he really needed was a clean stop, because his driver has got so much pace out there that a clean and faultless second stop should put him in with a great chance of winning this Grand Prix. I don't think Michael's got an answer to that. A 1:16.9 is his fastest lap of the Grand Prix as he manoeuvres around the Midland, but he's going to have to pull those out of the bag relentlessly now for the entire distance. Massa's just put in the fastest lap of the Grand Prix too, and on a 1:16.6. So the Ferrari boys have been given the now or never from the pit lane.
I'm not sure it's going to happen for Michael Schumacher here, because, as you say, he did a 16.9, but Alonso responded with a 17.0, having just made the pit stop with fuel on board. Michael Schumacher's got about 5 laps of fuel left in his car. Alonso is fuel for the next 24 laps, so he's carrying a lot more weight, and yet he's still got the pace. That is a telltale lap time from Alonso, and that is going to send Spanish hearts flying here. They feel they're probably just 24 laps away from seeing one of their boys win his own Grand Prix here in Spain for the first time in Formula One history. What a moment that would be for them. Massa quick as well at the moment. He's racing against Fisichella here this afternoon for the final podium place. Well, it's been wonderful this season. It's a sensational duel between Michael Schumacher and Fernando Alonso. We hope that Jenson Button and the McLarens will get involved in it too, and you can come and see the action at the British Grand Prix. Don't forget, it's a different date this year, normally mid-July, but they've brought it forward a month to avoid too many clashes with the World Cup. So June the 11th, make the date, call up Silverstone, buy some tickets. and come and see these things in action. If you've never been to a Formula One race, you must come and see them. They are absolutely shattering things. Wonderful to see. Massa pits.
That's a quick one that'll keep him in with a great shot of having a run at Fisichella. Mind you, this Fisichella down the pit straight, it's not going to happen, is it? Surely Fisichella's got enough momentum and he's clear. No problem then. Fisichella's busy chasing after Raikkonen, who is on a different strategy and yet to stop for the second time. Raikkonen currently fourth. Fisichella, well, as Massa's pitted, it'll be third actually. Third place Raikkonen, fourth for Fisichella, then Massa comes out of the pits just behind the Renault. So it's Renault net, Renault Ferrari, Renault Ferrari.
And what of Jenson Button? You see there on the graphic, he is in 6th place at the moment. He's half a minute behind race leader Michael Schumacher, and they both have to make another stop. So it's quite a lot that has been given away. We'll be very interested to see what Jenson says after the race, how much time he feels he lost tucked up behind Rubens Barrichello, his teammate. But certainly in the early part of the Grand Prix, arguably it might cost him a bit of time. But the best he might have been able to do would be to challenge Kimi Raikkonen for 5th place here this afternoon. So Honda, we sat down yesterday afternoon with Jeff Willis, the technical director of Honda, and had a chat with him about where they go from here. They're doing some work, some testing, trying to improve their race pace. Do you see a breakthrough coming for Honda in the near future?
No, not of the magnitude that they need to be challenging for race wins. I mean, Button 36 seconds off the lead at the moment, having stopped once, as has Michael Schumacher. Button pits as we speak. And you know, that's a huge amount of time to find in the 44 laps that they've done so far. You know, thick end of a second per lap is massive. And of course, everybody moves forward anyway. They're all bringing new aero parts, more revs, just a better way of going motor racing. It's a constantly moving set of goalposts that you're aiming at in this business. And Honda have got a lot of work to do. But at least it's been a solid afternoon for Jenson. I'd like to see him really up there chasing Raikkonen.
So what does he need? Well, he needs a car with slightly better aerodynamics. At the moment, they're lagging behind Ferrari, which has got excellent aerodynamics, good downforce, but also very good straight-line speed. A nice combination to have in 2006. Also, the Renault is a wonderfully aerodynamically efficient car. And this racetrack actually is the biggest tester of all of aerodynamic efficiency. If you do well here, it shows you've got a good car, and this really does find people out. It's amazing how little details. You see these little flaps on the front wings and the little flip-ups and the little barge boards. All these little details that get brought on the car race after race, new things. Just 1/10 of a second from here, 2/10 of a second from there. Those are all the things that make all the difference. Tiny details, but relentless development in Formula One. And that certainly is what Honda need. But obviously, Ferrari and Renault are not standing still. So while they're trying to find a little bit more speed, so are Renault and Ferrari continually moving the target further away from Honda. So they need a big jump to get Jenson into the battle. Certainly nothing wrong as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure you're the same in the way Jenson's driving this year. His driving's as good as ever, isn't it?
Seems to be. He's very smooth, textbook driving style really for Jenson Button. Michael Schumacher hasn't done enough in this part of the Grand Prix. He's in the pits for his final stop of the afternoon, but he needed to be taking something like 1.5 seconds a lap out of Alonso to make up the gap in the time he had available, and that just wasn't ever going to happen. So Alonso could pretty much match him even with the heavier fuel load. Got a mirror on that lollipop so Michael can have a look and see what's going on behind him. But I have to say, you never read the lollipop. I don't know why they put things on there. All you ever do is respond to it moving. You never really read it. And but they always write things on it. But Alonso was long gone, wasn't he? He's already into turn 3 as Michael feeds back down into the heart of turn 1.
Yeah, comes out just in front of Christian Klien, the Red Bull, who is a lap down on the leaders. On board, Kimi Raikkonen, looking back at the rear jackman for McLaren. Stand by with the starter just in case he stalls it. No such trouble. And Raikkonen goes back out again.
Incredibly noisy. We're about 5 stories up, looking down on that, but with earphones and with cans on. The noise of these V8s this year is really piercing. If you do go to the British Grand Prix, make sure you take some earplugs with you or get some when you're there, because they're revving so high on them, but it's a particularly painful noise, I think, that the V8s are making this year.
Certainly is. I met someone yesterday evening who was saying they couldn't stand loud noises, and a guest at the Grand Prix, and obviously never been to one before. Didn't dare tell him what an awful experience he was going to have this afternoon if he didn't have any earplugs or cans. Let's hear from Louise about Ralf Schumacher.
Ralf, what was your problem?
Well, we had an electronic failure. I don't know exactly what, obviously, but something electronically.
Tell us about that tussle with your teammate earlier in the race.
Well, we are allowed to race each other, you know, so I just tried to overtake him and it didn't work out.
Not a very good weekend for you then?
No, not really. I mean, you know, we were quick, we were good in qualifying, but not good enough in the race, so let's wait.
Thanks, Ralf.
Ralf Schumacher there, one of the retirements from this race, along with Christian Albers, Juan Montoya, who spun. We thought it may perhaps bring out a safety car, but it didn't. It happened at quite a critical part of the race. Alonso had just made his first stop. Michael Schumacher was yet to make his first stop. And possibly in other circumstances, other days, that might have brought out a safety car. But in fact, the marshals were able to get it out of the way very effectively. And so it didn't happen that way around. And also Montagny, who we saw going out of the Grand Prix early, retired in the pits with a drive shaft failure. This is lap 48 then. Alonso 12 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher, who's just made his second and final stop of the afternoon. Fisichella is 14 seconds behind Michael Schumacher now. So really, we talked about the number 2 drivers, as Mark Webber for Williams pits from 9th place, but they've fallen well short of their team leaders. Fisichella and Massa here today on pace. Felipe Massa 17 seconds behind his team leader.
I don't know if the team could hear that better than I could. Was he complaining something about the engine, some kind of problem? So it looks like an unscheduled stop for Speed then, who'd fallen behind teammate Liuzzi and the Red Bull of Klein. So Speed into some difficulty, possibly. Yeah, they're pushing him out of the Grand Prix. Shame for him.
Yeah, certainly a shame for him. Scott Speed, his best result in Formula One so far, 11th place in Australia and also at the Nürburgring, yet to get himself into the points. In fact, Toro Rosso yet to get off the mark. It's been amazing this year how the top teams have just hogged all the points, particularly Renault and Ferrari. And everybody else has been left scrambling around for scraps. The Red Bull team, thus far, only 2 points on the board. And you think what a strong start they had to last season with David Coulthard and Christian Klein. Toyota, they've only got 7 points on the board. And last year, if you remember, Jarno Trulli was running second in the World Championship and looking very good indeed. So things have definitely changed this year, and very much to Renault and Ferrari's advantage.
Alonso's got the whole pit straight advantage over Michael Schumacher. It's 13.5 seconds, and he's pulling away half a second a lap 2. I think Michael's recognised today is not his day. Can Massa catch Fisichella? He's just 3.8 seconds behind him, and lapping faster, and it's then Raikkonen and Button for 5th and 6th. So they're the main scraps out there, I think, for the points. Heidfeld's managing to get the BMW up into 7th at the moment for a couple of points. He's only stopped the one time. Barrichello hanging on to the final point in 8th place, but Rosberg is catching him.
Well, no one was quite sure exactly how things were going to play out in the battle between Michelin and Bridgestone, between Renault and Ferrari. Certainly Bridgestone and Michelin pretty sure that their tyres are fairly evenly matched here. But you'd have to say that as the weekend has gone on, the track seems to have come to the Michelin tyres a little bit more. There was always a possibility that that might happen. And certainly today, during this Grand Prix, the Michelins do look to have a slight edge. So 16 laps separate Fernando Alonso, and a very emotional Grand Prix victory on home soil in Barcelona as Nico Rosberg pits from 9th place. The crowd are willing Alonso on. He leads Michael Schumacher by 14 seconds with 16 laps to go.
По-прежнему отражает атаки Кристиана Клина. Клин на легкой машине. Ему скоро ехать на пит-стоп, но пока этого не случилось, мы с вами прерываемся.
Into the final stages of the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona. 130,000 people here to see if Fernando Alonso can win his home Grand Prix. He started this race from pole position with this man, Giancarlo Fisichella, alongside him. It was a perfect formation start for the two Renaults. The two Ferraris tucked in behind, with Michael Schumacher third and Felipe Massa fourth. Schumacher ran 7 laps longer in the opening stint, just showing what an amazing performance it was by Schumacher in qualifying yesterday. And that was enough to get him ahead of Giancarlo Fisichella. And now he is 13 seconds ahead of Fisichella in the second Renault. But could he do anything about Fernando Alonso? Well, even though he had more fuel than the Spaniard, he wasn't able to make it count in the middle part of the race. Alonso's pace has been absolutely sensational here this afternoon, and although they're lapping now at roughly the same speed, Alonso was always able to keep Schumacher at arm's length, always around 10 or 11 seconds the margin. Schumacher briefly got it down under 10 seconds, but Alonso responded, and now I think Schumacher has settled for second best. Alonso 15 seconds up the road from him. Fisichella is in third place. Massa is in fourth place. Jenson Button in the early part of the Grand Prix was held up by Honda teammate Rubens Barrichello, but it took until the first round of pit stops to get in front of his teammate. Since then, he's pulled away from him. He's now almost 20 seconds in front of Barrichello, but it's really a case of what might have been for Jenson Button. In the last few laps, though, he has closed up on Kimi Räikkönen. He's now just 3 seconds behind him with 13 laps to go. It's a notoriously difficult place to overtake Barcelona, and it is only for 5th place, but Jenson does have something to aim for here. Barrichello then in 7th. Heidfeld at the moment for BMW Sauber looks like having another point-scoring afternoon. It would be their 4th point-scoring weekend of the season. BMW really have hoisted the Sauber team up ahead of Toyota, Red Bull and the others. And Mark Webber, well, he's 8 seconds off a points-paying position for Williams. So at the moment, both the Williams cars are out of the points. Webber 9th and Rosberg in 11th place.
I have to say, I was astonished at how calm Alonso was on the grid. The fact he even stopped to talk. He was calmer than I was, for sure. He just looked like he got it all under control, didn't he? He wasn't in any hurry at all to get to his car. But I think he just felt he'd got it nailed today and got what he needed off the pole position slot. Coulthard's pitted from 13th. Momentarily he's got ahead of Klein and Liuzzi and co, but he'll drop back behind them now. Struggling, I think we heard from him earlier on in the race about a wobbly back end after they rebuilt the car overnight, and still just keeps running, and he's got it down into the 1 minute 18, so it can't be too wobbly out there. But certainly Alonso then on lap 55, 15 seconds clear now of Michael Schumacher. And Ted has news.
Yeah, just as Christian Albers is coming in to retire in the Midland, we'll find out what that's about in the moment. I can tell you it was a confirmed engine failure for Scott Speed. He said he felt the power go throughout the second stint. But Martin, that's the first failure they've had on this Rev Limited Cosworth. So well, it's interesting. At least it's something of note in this otherwise not very interesting race.
Yeah, it wasn't too smoky though, was it? So presumably some kind of systems malfunction rather than terminal failure of the air. There's 5,000 pieces in these, certainly in the latest V8 engines. 5,000 individual pieces, which is extraordinary. Every so often one of them tries to escape, and that's when the smoky bit comes. But yeah, they're so under-stressed. We really thought that those Toro Rossos would run forever, didn't we?
Reliability is certainly pretty impressive. 17 cars still going, pushing hard. Alonso, I remind you, is on the second race with his engine. The rules at the moment are that you have to make a single engine last 2 whole Grand Prix weekends. That's practice, qualifying and the Grand Prix, and then you have to bring it along the following weekend. If you change it before the end of the second weekend, you take a 10-place penalty on the grid. You drop 10 places on the grid. That's what happened with Jacques Villeneuve this weekend. But, well, Alonso will be keeping an eye on his engine because it's the same one he used at the Nürburgring last weekend. You can see the crowd waving him on up in the stands. They've added 10,000 new seats this year. Ferrari head in hands, the pace not really there. And that will, it's quite a surprise, I think, for quite a few people. I thought they'd be faster today. They certainly look faster in free practice. So after the excellent performances in Imola and Nürburgring, Martin, for Ferrari, where certainly in the Nürburgring they were surprisingly quicker than Renault, it's a situation back to normal again as far as Renault and Alonso are concerned here in Barcelona. But from now on, for the rest of the season, it's all about the little detailed developments they can make on the car, isn't it? The little winglets and what have you, any little piece they can bring, and the tyres as well, just to make those cars a little faster.
Yeah, no doubt about it, but as I said earlier on in the programme, every time we've cut to Michael Schumacher on board on used tyres, I've seen him with an armful of understeer, the car sliding around, so I'm not that surprised, but the whole paddock was so certain that the Ferrari was going to run and hide this afternoon, and I don't know if they were. They were certainly putting out some very positive vibes into the paddock as well. They seemed confident about it, but Alonso had an answer for it every time. The concern for Renault, if you look at next year, is that Fisichella, who's done a solid job, but he's 30 seconds behind his teammate, 30 full seconds. And even more of a concern for Alonso is he's 55 seconds ahead of the McLaren that he's jumping into next year.
Yep, he'll definitely want to get a second World Championship under his belt before he makes that jump. So McLaren clearly got some work to do now, and they've lost some key members of their design team. Adrian Newey obviously is the headline member who's gone to the Red Bull Racing team, but he's the designer genius who was behind the Williams success of the mid-90s and McLaren's 2 championships in the late 90s with Mika Hakkinen. No question about his credentials, but his team as well, Peter Prodromou and Nick Tombassis, have gone elsewhere. Tombassis to Ferrari, Prodromou has gone to Red Bull Racing, and that team within a team at the top of McLaren will be hard to replace.
They're showing the Michael Schumacher in 4th place on the computer at the moment. Where is Michael? Have they just missed him as he's gone past as the sensor missed him? But Michael Schumacher has stopped out on the racetrack according to the computer, but we haven't seen anything on the TV screens. Ted?
There's absolute confusion down here at Renault. He's showing now that he's stopped, but there he is, large as life on the telly, going very well. Renault were having an absolute field day. Their arms were upraised because they were just looking at the timing screens you were looking at, which showed that Michael had stopped on the circuit. So another weird timing glitch going on.
Yeah, there's a default on when you've a certain amount of time past the normal sector time, it shows you as stopped. So obviously Michael Schumacher's sensor is not registering at the moment. He'll still be, there's a backup timing system you'll not be surprised to hear, and another manual system as well, so it's not a big issue. But at the moment, and he's just popped back up into 2nd place again. Good effort, past 2 people in 1 lap.
Including himself. It's all over the place at the moment. The computer had Fisichella in front of him. So, 2nd race in a row we've had a little timing problem with the phantom red flag during qualifying at the Nürburgring race last weekend, for which we were given an apology. It all came from the board at the start system from. For some reason, it decided to throw a red flag, which means end of session, and that threw everyone into confusion. But they've managed to put this one right pretty quickly, and Schumacher is now shown as being 16.5 seconds behind Fernando Alonso with just 8 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Fisichella 12 seconds behind Schumacher. Massa 5 seconds behind Fisichella. Thought they might be a little bit closer at the time of the 2nd stops, those two, but Massa just not having the speed. Although, Martin, he has the fastest lap of the race, Felipe Massa, 1:16.6 on lap 42. So fundamental speed in the car, but not consistent speed from the Ferrari.
Yeah, the trouble is when you do the fastest lap of the race and you finish 4th, it kind of suggests that you didn't max the performance out in the day. But Louise has some news for us.
Yeah, a bit of an update for you on Christian Albers. He's got some damage to his car. His front wing failed earlier in the race, hit the barge boards and his front suspension. So he came in for a new nose, has been in a further 3 times to try and sort out the handling of the car, but it's still very, very bad. It's deemed to be dangerous. So he's finally parked the car in the garage.
Thank you for that, Louise. So continuing on his imperious way, Fernando Alonso. Here is Kimi Räikkönen, running in 5th place at the moment, almost a minute behind Alonso. It will be a minute by the time this race finishes. It's gone up to 57 seconds now, the McLaren is behind. So
next man to get lapped is Jenson Button. He's a while down the road. I don't know who Kimi Räikkönen was waving to. I can only assume it was a back marker that got out of his way, but so Alonso's lapped everybody up to P6, and the computer's throwing a bit of a wobbly again at the moment.
I wonder if Raikkonen was just stretching his fingers. It looked to me more like just a stretch of his fingers on his left hand, maybe getting a little bit of cramp in there.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, you do grip the wheel very hard here with these high G-forces around the corners. Easy to get, especially if you're a bit dehydrated later on in the afternoon. Schumacher 17 seconds behind, very much, you know, a Renault sandwich, but not a lot of butter in it for him because he is nowhere near Alonso, although he's got a bit of a comfortable margin of a dozen seconds over Fisichella.
Well, Ferrari were very proud of the fact that they won 2 back-to-back Grand Prix with the same engine. Michael Schumacher carrying the same engine through Imola and the Nürburgring. And if you consider the problems that they had in Malaysia at the start of the season, where they were having to change engines left, right and centre, and they got very little out of that Grand Prix weekend, it is a major triumph for the engine department at Maranello. But that car is a good car, there's no question about it. The engine's strong, the aerodynamics are sensational. Ferrari still well at the top of the straight line speed traps. It's not really helped them today in their battle with Renault as much as everyone thought it would. But Massa, 317 kilometers an hour, is at almost 205 miles an hour. And Alonso isn't even registering amongst the top 6, so he's at least 10 kilometers an hour slower down the straight than the Ferrari. But clearly that Renault is going around the corners beautifully, using its Michelin tyres beautifully. And Fernando Alonso is driving quite exquisitely.
Tell you what, though, down in the midfield, you've got guys in the women in 19s, Trulli, Rosberg, Villeneuve. When your car's not working around this track, it's utter misery. You can't manhandle it. You can't make the difference through these high-speed corners if the car's not underneath you. And you just seem to be struggling and driving as if it's your last race on Earth. And then suddenly a car coasts up behind you, like the Renault, passes you and disappears off into the distance, doing apparently half your work rate behind the wheel. If the car's not hooked up around here, you just cannot get it together.
Well, we went out on the track, didn't we, on Saturday morning to spectate and look at the cars, and they just do seem so perfect, don't they? They brake in such an enormously short distance, 70 or 80 metres to scrub off something like 120 miles an hour of speed. They're so efficient aerodynamically, the brakes are so efficient, absolutely amazing. Ted Kravitz, what can you tell us?
Yeah, just a final up sum of Jenson Button's race, because there's not much else going on, is there? Apparently he's turned the engine down now because he's on the first race with his engine, and they want to save it, conserve it for the next race in Monaco when they really fancy their chances with Jenson. So the engineers have told him to turn his engine down, save all the revs. They think, by the way, that they could have challenged Kimi Raikkonen. Just spoke to Jeff Willis. He says, yeah, we think we're quicker than Raikkonen, but you just can't overtake here.
Well, whatever it is, it's still 3 seconds behind Raikkonen. But the Honda does ride the bumps and curbs well, which bodes well for Monaco, for Button, as does the Renault, you have to say. The front-running cars do look like they're very nicely suspended this year and quite compliant. It's such a different challenge for the next Grand Prix over the drain covers and off-camber, bumpy pavements of Monaco compared to this super smooth, nicely cambered racetrack. But when your car's working, it seems to work everywhere. It's odd. Whatever. When your team is hooked up, they'll just give you something every weekend that you feel confident with.
That's interesting, just hearing from Ted about Jenson Button's race, the could-haves and the should-haves, which always come out at the end of a Grand Prix. There's been a lot of could-haves and should-haves from Honda this season, but I think in this case, if Button had not been tucked up behind Barrichello for the whole of the first stint, Jenson Button pitting on lap 25, Barrichello the lap before, he's only 2.8 seconds now behind Raikkonen, and for sure, Martin, he lost more than that, tucked up behind Barrichello. So possibly that's where the time went.
Well, Rubens has out-qualified in his last 2 Grand Prix, last 2 weekends, but it seems as if Rubens hasn't quite hooked himself up. A good race setup. It's certainly been faster in qualifying than Jenson with similar fuel loads. But Jenson's got the upper hand. P6 then for our man Button at the moment, albeit a minute adrift.
Yep, he'll get 3 points for that at the moment. Jenson only had 3-point scoring finishes so far this season, just 13 points in the championship compared to Alonso on 44. It looks like Alonso's going to pick another 10 up today. This is the battle for 10th place between Jarno Trulli and Nico Rosberg, and Rosberg qualified in 13th, so he's only moved forward a couple of places. Jarno Trulli qualified 7th, so once again that car has moved backwards in the race, and Trulli saying just don't seem to be able to make the car work on the Bridgestone tyres. They made the switch across, of course, from Michelin to Bridgestone this season. They still haven't got the car quite going on the Bridgestones.
Button just 2.1 seconds behind Raikkonen now. If I was him, I'd be cranking the engine back up, because there is a chance of that P5. As difficult as it is to overtake her, you know, if he can really get himself some quali revs for a couple of laps right at the end of the Grand Prix, he does have a chance. That's really the main race out there at the moment. Rosberg and Trulli are squabbling a few tenths apart. Trulli was still struggling with that fuel flap up, which will be destroying the airflow over part of his rear wing. But they're out of the points positions in 10 and 11, so it's all down to Button. He's gained another 10th on Raikkonen this lap so far.
Well, it's interesting because Raikkonen's engine is on its second Grand Prix, and it's an engine they were a little bit concerned with, if you remember, in the Nürburgring. So for sure they have turned his engine down. He's lapping in the mid-118s as Rosberg has a good look at Trulli. Jenson Button, however, is on a new engine, an updated Honda engine. So if they, as you say, if they turn the revs up, he might well have a chance to eat into that 1.9 now seconds lead that Raikkonen has over him for that final, for that 5th place. Just 2 laps to go here, and as we've said before, not the easiest place to make an overtaking manoeuvre, which is a shame, I have to say. A lot of the tracks we visit, like the Nürburgring, comes in for a lot of stick, but you can definitely pass there. Whereas Barcelona, it's a track they test on over and over again. It obviously provides great passion from the crowd. It's a great challenge for the drivers and a test for the cars. But I do think it's a shame that we have these venues like here in Imola where you cannot overtake.
It's been tough out there for the drivers. Do I sense Alonso leaning his head on the fast left-handers? And I thought they were going to have a pit stop for a moment, but the Renault boys getting ready to salute their winner.
Yeah, there he is. Look at the flags waving. He's halfway round his final lap. He goes through turn 7, up the hill. Listen to the crowd. Their matador is going to come home. It was a major fight as Rosberg has a big go at Trulli into turn 1 at the beginning of the final lap. Into the complex now. Listen to the crowd roaring him on. Grandstands lining all of these corners. He's waving to the crowd.
Don't do a Mansell and have a switch it off or have a problem on the last lap, but he's coming home.
He certainly is. He's coming home to be the first Spaniard ever to win on home soil. Even the marshals love it, the crowd love it. Fernando Alonso wins the Spanish Grand Prix. His 3rd victory of 2006 alongside Bahrain and Australia, the 11th of his career, and an absolutely wonderful one. Michael Schumacher, we thought he would be stronger, but accepts a little wave of the hand that he was not quick enough on the day. Ferrari came up short. Alonso, though, absolutely imperious at the front. Fisichella comes through to make it 2 Renaults on the podium. Massa is 4th. Raikkonen and Button are going to finish 5th and 6th, with Rubens Barrichello picking up 2 points for Honda, and Nick Heidfeld the final point for the BMW Sauber team in 8th place. But no doubt at all who the hero is today. It is Fernando Alonso, the reigning world champion from Oviedo in Spain. He's made every single one of the 130,000 people here today ecstatically happy.
Pole position, comfortable win. We're going to see a happy Spanish face in the press conference and a slightly grumpy German.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you. This one will be one to win. Thank you. Muchas gracias, Fernando.
A very distinctly Spanish flavour then about the conversations on the radio. He wants to kiss the camera.
He's obviously worked out that they're always following him when he's won a race from that mirror cam. You can't really see the camera in there, so I'm sure he knows it's there. 42 cameras, I think, out on the Formula 1 cars in total, in various positions. They all have to carry dummy camera positions as well when they've not got the actual cameras in, so that they're not those carrying cameras are not unfairly penalised aerodynamically or with weight.
Fantastico, fantastico, fantastico. Alla grande, vai, 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 fantastico.
With English, Spanish, and Italian.
They're stuck for words, aren't they, really? What do you say when you've just won your home Grand Prix? Just seeing yesterday the adulation when he walked out after he got his pole position. He came into Parc Fermé, took his helmet off, and came out and waved to the crowd, and they erupted, as I'm sure they will in a moment when he pulls into Parc Fermé. How could one man handle that much attention, that much adulation? He's a very private individual, but somehow he just soaks it up. He is such a competitive racer. He wins then the Spanish Grand Prix from Michael Schumacher. There you can see the finishing order. Neither of the Williams cars making it into the points. It was a Michelin and Bridgestone sandwich at the top, but I think definitely advantage Michelin today at the front in the battle for the victory. There you can see the cars that did not make it to the finish. 17 classified finishers. Super Aguri getting a car to the finish, albeit 4 laps down. It's win number 3 of the season for Alonso, who's really milking this sportsman crowd. There you can see the situation in the Drivers' Championship. Alonso putting back a bit of the undoing the damage that Michael Schumacher did to him over the last 2 Grand Prix. Button moves up to 6th place with 16 points, closing in on Felipe Massa. Montoya, who spun out of this Grand Prix, moves down to 7th. And Raikkonen still not in the hunt, really, is he?
No, he's managed to maintain 3rd in the championship. I was always surprised to see Raikkonen up there just then. It's difficult to sort of... He's obviously just been consistently scoring points, but a lot of pace to find there. Button finished just 1.4 behind him in the end, over the line, but never really threatened to overtake for that 5th and 6th place. A couple of points of Barrichello. Heidfeld, I think, doing a solid job again for BMW and stealing a point ahead of Webber.
Flavio Briatore there on the left, the boss of Renault, just waiting for his driver, as is the whole crowd here. Well, we've been there before, haven't we, in the UK over the years. Great drivers, Jackie Stewart, Jim Clark, Nigel Mansell, have given British race fans so much to cheer about on home soil over the years. Another in a long line of ludicrous celebrations from Alonso. Michael Schumacher did the same thing for the Germans a decade ago. They turned up in their tens and hundreds of thousands to watch him race. And now in Spain, Formula One is the new fever. And he has done exactly what they needed him to do today. Gone out and dominated this race. Much against predictions, it must be said. A lot of people thinking, including myself, it will be a bit tighter than this, but fair play to Renault and fair play to Alonso.
Yeah, job for the drivers now. I wonder if we're going to see a replay of Fisichella going off. Not here, because he went off earlier in the lap than that. I don't think they ever quite caught where he went wide and off the racetrack. Turn 3, we know it was turn 3, but we didn't catch the action, unfortunately. But the drivers go in and be where they have to hang on to their hands device and crash helmet. Go and step on the weighbridge so they can add that weight to the cars when they weigh them. They stay in Parc Fermé for a while now to check them, to make sure they match up with the regulations. And that's why the drivers, that's what goes on now before they emerge up onto the podium.
So some strong performances today. This is a track where you really are a bit limited by the car underneath you, as Martin was saying earlier on, and the Renault, the superior package today, although Schumacher managed to get his Ferrari in front of the Renault of Fisichella, so that slightly belies that theory, but all the way through the field it really was about the car you had under you. Alonso obviously magnificent, Schumacher fought hard. Jenson Button gave it his best once he got clear of his teammate. Who's your driver of the day? Only one choice, I guess.
Yeah, that's easy, isn't it? Fernando Alonso. Perfect. Pole. Brilliant laps. Pushed the car hard when he needed to. that in-lap he was doing, one of his in-laps, he was the fastest man of anybody in the first and second sector on the in-lap. That's quite brave to hang it out in those circumstances. So nobody could match him today.
Well, bravery and aggression are two qualities that he has in spades, that's for sure. The podium getting ready, the King of Spain, who is frequently a caller after Alonso wins around the world.
Here they are, the first three: Fernando Alonso, Michael Schumacher, and Giancarlo Fisichella, and Flavio Briatore.
French national anthem for Renault, the winning constructor. Alonso just taking a moment to tie his shoelace. We've seen that before. No questions about his fitness, though. The King presents the trophy. What a great honour. A great lover of motorsport, Juan Carlos, always comes to the Grand Prix and always loves it. The winner's trophy then for Flavio Briatore. Some doubt about his situation within the Renault team. Was it linked to a commitment from Renault that we got today that they will be around until 2012? Will he now sign, or is he waiting for something else? Said over the weekend, I'm feeling a bit tired of Formula One. It's a sport that requires a great deal of energy. I feel like I've achieved everything. I need fresh motivation. We will see over the next few weeks whether Briatore will stay at the helm. He's done so much to make this team what it is. Michael Schumacher finishes second today. He seems happy enough with that, enjoying the moment. 8 more points for him then, keeps him in the hunt, even on a bad day. He's right there. And Fisichella, we saw him off the road earlier on, lost that second place to Schumacher. I think he'll be unhappy that he wasn't able to keep the German behind him to do a job. Also for Alonso, just making the difference in points between him and Schumacher a bit greater. Slightly rueful for Fisichella, I think. So the King gets ready to clear the podium before the champagne. No one would dare to cover him with the sticky stuff. I think everybody in Spain, and certainly everybody here today in Barcelona, will remember Fernando Alonso's perfect race. In a couple of weeks' time, he'll be taking them all on around the streets of Monte Carlo.
And let the celebrations begin. It's raining champagne here in Spain. And what a victory by Fernando Alonso. It was calculated, it was brave, it was committed. But it's a Spanish victory at the Spanish Grand Prix that's going to be celebrated long and hard here at the Circuit de Catalunya and also in the streets of Barcelona tonight. Alonso is their hero, and we'll be examining exactly how he did it when we return.
монументальный этап будет через 2 недели. Для вас, естественно, вновь будет работать Алексей Попов, как и сегодня. Гран-при Испании 6-го этапа чемпионата мира 2006 года.
Barcelona celebrates. At last they have a Spanish winner of the Spanish Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso, outstanding. Mark Blundell yet again today, where most of the predictions ahead of the race suggested Schumacher.
They did indeed, and I was quite convinced as of today, just before the race, that Schumacher was going to win. But what a performance by Alonso, by Renault, by Michelin. You watch the guy just pull away nearly at a second a lap in those first early laps, and nobody can contend with that.
Everything had to work just to plan, and off the start line it certainly did from the Renault point of view.
Well, it did indeed. The Renaults are superbly strong, as we know they would be, but the big one for me was Kimi Raikkonen. The guy was incredible. He'd come off of a 9th position on the grid. Just watch him come away, clean start. But this is what amazes me. He splits these two Hondas. That's a big, big move. Unbelievable. Actually, the Toyotas there just going through, but it then goes around the outside of the Honda in a very brave move again. That's commitment. You've got to be really on top of your game to do that.
Yes, but that was about as good as it got for Kimi Raikkonen. From Fernando's point of view, real concern when Schumacher went an extra 5 laps in that opening stint.
Well, we all thought then maybe the game was up. We thought, oh, okay, they've got so much fuel, and it is really where they're going to push hard and make the break, and then the race is going to come to Ferrari. But no, it just did not happen. They clearly didn't have the pace. The Alonso-Renault combination is just destroying everybody at this moment. You can't believe what other people are thinking now. Those guys at Ferrari, I've just seen their faces. They are down in the dumps.
We'll talk more about what Fernando has achieved today in a few minutes' time. Not a bad race from Jenson Button's point of view. At least he finished going away from his teammate Rubens Barrichello. We can hear from Jenson right now.
Jenson, it could have been a very different race for you maybe if you hadn't been tucked up behind your teammate during that first stint.
Yeah, it all comes from qualifying, the problem we had in qualifying with the front end of the car. We should have been up in 5th position on the grid, and if we'd been there we would have been 1 place higher in the race. So yeah, I mean, that's as good as the car is at the moment. I'd say we're probably equal with the McLaren, maybe a little bit better, but the 2 top teams are just too far ahead. But a faultless race, which is nice, and 3 points in the end. So.
And Monaco to look forward to?
I can't wait. I really can't. I love that place, and I've had a great experience there 2 years ago, so hopefully we can replicate that, or a little bit better maybe.
Cheers, gents.
Cheers.
We clutch at anything from a Honda point of view as far as Jenson Button is concerned. Indications there that they might well be strong in Monaco, though.
I think that actually today showed that there's been some progress made. And I think also for Jenson as well, you can see there's a bit more confidence, a little glint in his eye. He knows he's done a good job today, and he knows that the car's performed a lot better. Yes, he knows those big teams have got a lot on them, but Monte Carlo will definitely be somewhere where he's going to be pumped up.
Well, let's just confirm the result of this Spanish Grand Prix today. Another great day for Spanish motorsport. Victory for Fernando Alonso, this time ahead of Michael Schumacher, turning round the results of the last 2 Grand Prix. Giancarlo Fisichella in 3rd, then Felipe Massa for Ferrari. Kimi Raikkonen for McLaren. Jenson Button taking the points for 6th ahead of his teammate Rubens Barrichello. Nick Heidfeld completing the point scorers there, and we'll be hearing from the mighty Fernando in just a few minutes' time. And back here at the circuit of Catalunya, here's a happy man. The smile has returned to the face of Renault's Pat Simmons. Analyse that for us. Was it even more than you expected and hoped for today?
Yeah, it certainly was. I really thought that we had a difficult one on our hands today. And I was perhaps more pessimistic than I have been at the other races. But it just came to us. As the temperatures came up, the tyres worked perfectly. And I think what won it today was just sheer speed. It wasn't strategy. It was the car, the driver, everything just had the speed right through the race.
And it was meant to be Ferrari who had the speed, I thought.
Well, so did I, believe it or not. And before the race, I thought that their long-run performance on Saturday had worried me. And I thought if they were going long, we were going to have a battle on our hands. But we stayed aggressive, and it came to us.
The celebrations from Renault's point of view and the celebrations from the Spanish point of view said exactly what this result means to everyone here at the circuit of Catalunya from Fernando's point of view. Is the championship charge back on track now?
I hope it never really got off track, just a little minor hiccup. But You know, this is a very particular circuit, Barcelona. We've been quick here in testing. We're going to Monaco next. You know, what a difference. So let's see how it goes.
You know just about everything that happens around Renault. Can you explain the nature of Fernando's latest celebration, though?
Well, that just shows I don't know everything, doesn't it?
Pat, well done. Let's hear from Fernando. He's in the press conference right now.
Итак, дамы и господа, вот первая тройка финишировавших на Гран-при Испании. Джанкарло Физикелло на Рено третья позиция, Михаэль Шумахер Феррари вторая и впервые
Fernando Alonso. Fernando, that looked like 66 perfect laps.
Yeah, I think we did our maximum race performance today. Tires performed really well through the race. We had some doubts before the start, and everything went perfect as we planned. We pushed in the first stint. We were lighter than the Ferrari, so we need the gap. We found the gap quite quickly, and then it was a defending race from there on. But it was not the case this time. Ferrari was not coming really strongly, so I was just maintaining the gap, and especially the last stint, controlling the revs and try to finish the race. That for me was very long today, obviously.
It certainly looked as if you're enjoying the closing laps of the race. Can you just describe to us your emotions at the checkered flag?
Yeah, fantastic. The last 5 or 6 laps, I saw that Michael was slowing down as well. No, not anymore pushing. So it was 4 or 5 laps just cruising to the end. And for sure, check flag, finish the race and finish in front of everybody here, in front of my people, my supporters. I think was the best feeling so far. I think in a Formula 1 car, equal to the Grand Prix of Brazil when I won the championship. I finished third in that race with a lot of problems defending the third place, and I didn't enjoy so much as I did today that I was alone leading the race.
Поздравляем вас. Михаэль, поздравляем и вас также, потому что очень сложная вторая гонка. Второе место в этой гонке. Как сложно было оказаться на втором месте впереди Джанкарло Физикелло. Знаете, в середине этой гонки мне нужно было сделать что-то вне зависимости от Джанкарло, что он ехал в каком-то темпе, и, знаете, это не Монца. Что касается нас, то наше улучшение машины стало гораздо лучше. По ходу всего уикенда мы работали над ней. И, в общем, мы надеялись, но были всего-навсего недостаточно быстры сегодня. У нас действительно дрекстерный разгон был у всех четверых к первому повороту, а ведь у вас было больше топлива. Ну да, мы знали, что у нас больше топлива, мы предполагали это, но с меньшим количеством топлива, может быть, легче было бы сквалифицироваться впереди них, но другая тактика была бы, и это же самая тактика, которая сработала на Нюрнберге, здесь на этот раз просто не сработала для нас. Но вы довольны вторым местом и теми очками, что набрали, да, как вы сказали? Это действительно нужно понимать в какие-то моменты, что можно сделать, что нельзя сделать. И вот это второе место нужно просто доверять самому себе. Если машина и весь набор элементов позволяет ехать быстро, ты едешь быстро. Если нет, ну что ж, ты набираешь очки. В любом случае, до конца чемпионата еще много времени. Может быть, я не так доволен, что я отыграл всего 2 очка на прошлой гонке, но на этот раз, с другой стороны, я проигрываю всего 2 очка, поэтому, в общем, посмотрим, что дальше произойдет по ходу чемпионата. Что ж, здорово. Еще раз. Джанкарло, у вас был очень неплохой старт, вы были впереди Михаэля, это было очень важно для команды наверняка. Да, конечно. У нас был хороший старт, даже лучше, чем у Фернандо, может быть. И после первого поворота мы были на первом и втором месте. У нас был хороший темп, и в первой части гонки никаких проблем не было. Мы были чуть-чуть легче, чем Феррари, и поэтому, естественно, могли ехать быстрее. Затем во втором отрезке Вернее, в конце первого отрезка Михаэль оказался близко и, в общем, обогнал меня за счет пит-стопа. После этого я был в третьем повороте, и мои инженеры сказали мне о чем-то. И внезапно это прозвучало в ушах и сбило меня с толку, меня развернуло, и пролетел через гравий. Но ничего страшного, в принципе, это... В общем, в любом случае, хороший результат для нас. Как мы и ждали, это была сложная гонка между нами и Феррари. Что ж, здорово для вас. Фернандо, возвращаемся к вам. Вчера вы сказали, что 66 кругов будет недостаточно долго для вас на домашнем автодроме, чтобы порадоваться. Это до сих пор правда? Да, это действительно правда. Ехать здесь на машине Формулы-1 перед этими трибунами, которые заполнены людьми, одетыми в цвета нашей команды, это действительно так здорово, что действительно всех этих 66 кругов сегодня мне не хватило. Конечно, я хотел финишировать гонку, тем более, что я лидировал, и чтобы отпраздновать это с командой и со всеми фанатами, собравшимися здесь, это фантастика.
I think that says just about everything from Fernando's point of view. The best feeling he's ever had in a Formula One car.
You know, I have to say, I think it's probably one of the most dominating races I've seen him do. Definitely something what we'll remember for a great deal of time. But, you know, it was a copybook. Every single lap was as hard as can be. Martin Brundle alluded to it during the commentary. Even his in-laps were outstanding. The amount of push that he was using there just to come into the pits, there's so much danger and risk attached with doing that. But he didn't pressure under it and... just won the race in such much style.
And to put it in perspective, you were able to really measure his performance against that of his teammate Giancarlo Fisichella.
That's a big question mark now, Steve. You know, that really shows up the pace of Alonso comparison-wise to Fisichella. And you've got to think that they're going to need something to happen on that front. He can't be 6, 7, 8 tenths a lap faster all the time. It's just not right. They need somebody stronger.
Yeah.
You know, what more does he have left if he has a stronger teammate? Maybe there's something else.
Ahead of this, we were thinking that maybe Ferrari had the race-by-race advantage. Do we have to revise those thoughts now?
I think we do, yeah. But what I do think is we've got a real good battle on our hands because I think the technology, the progress with Ferrari, they will push again. We'll get to Monte Carlo, we'll have a big, big battle on our hands, and you've got the other guys coming up strong as well.
Other guys maybe like Jenson Button and Honda. Mark, thanks very much for your contribution this week here at the Spanish Grand Prix. A reminder that there's more live sport coming up in just a few minutes' time here on ITV, the British Touring Car Championship from Alton Park. Spanish Grand Prix highlights come after midnight this evening. And I'm sure you don't need reminding of Arsenal in that Champions League final on Wednesday night. Live here on ITV from 7 o'clock Wednesday evening. Now, motorsport next weekend, the GP2 races from here in Barcelona. No luck for Lewis Hamilton this time, but you can see highlights of that next Saturday. And in 2 weeks' time, we're in Monaco with live qualifying and race coverage at the usual times, the Monaco Grand Prix. Well, Monaco throws up its own kind of problems, but here in Barcelona, it's Ole Alonso, Fernando, all the way in the Spanish Grand Prix. Bye for now.